An entitled jerk literally steals my property right in front of me after he's invited over to my house for a Dungeons & Dragons session. Because the way the guy did this was completely obnoxious and so obvious, as he literally took no precaution to try and hide the fact that he was stealing from me, but instead just blatantly stole it and acted like nothing was wrong. And I've got to be honest, I'm kind of blown away by this, and I seriously don't know what to do from here. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only place where you can find out just how bad of an idea it is to invite strangers over to your house. Because if you're not careful, they might just try to rob you blind. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so 2 days ago, I hosted a one-shot session of Dungeons & Dragons at my house, which in hindsight was a genuinely terrible idea, because I didn't even know any of the people that I invited. All of my friends were busy, and I really wanted to do something this weekend, so I posted in a local Dungeons & Dragons group mentioning that I was looking for players. Now, 3 people answered, including the waste of oxygen I'm going to refer to as Benjamin. He's around 18 years old, maybe 17. Meanwhile, the rest of us are in our 20s. Now, Benjamin seemed like a completely normal person. If anything, just really nerdy about anime and manga. When we all first entered my room, he zoned in on my Berserk volumes, particularly on the latest, which is a version with a variant cover. He mentioned that he couldn't find it anywhere, which I find odd because this stuff can always be found online for very cheap. Now, nothing much really happened during the session itself. We all had fun, and Benjamin was actually a pretty decent player. The real issues came up afterwards. The other 2 people left while Benjamin and I chatted for a few more minutes. He was positioned with his back to my bookshelf, and I was sitting right in front of him. And that's when I looked to the side and I noticed the volume from earlier was missing. And as I instinctively approached the shelf, I noticed a suspiciously shaped lump on his back. And yeah, I think you can guess exactly where this is going. Well, what do you know? I lifted his shirt and I found my volume halfway down his pants. Now, I once again want to underline that this man stole a book that you can find in any bookstore and online for like maybe around $5. I could even almost understand if he tried to steal some like rare collector's item, but this very much was not that. I immediately pulled it out and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he just, well, I don't know how to describe it, but he just stood there. He just continued talking about whatever discussion we were having moments earlier, completely ignoring the fact that I just caught him red-handed trying to steal from me. At that point, I got mad and I bluntly told him to pack up his crap. I then watched him shove all of his possessions in his backpack and close it, all while he was still talking, by the way, and then I went to leave the room. I then turned around and he was still fiddling with his backpack again, and it's at this point I wisened up, I zipped it back open, and I looked inside. And right there, I find multiple figurines that I keep like right beside the volumes. Besides that, all the stuff in the backpack was his. Now at this point, I'm literally just stunned. He had seriously just taken the half second I was looking elsewhere to try his luck and steal something else. I raised his shirt again to check if he had taken anything else, but thankfully there was nothing. He was wearing tight jeans, so he couldn't possibly have hidden anything in his pants fully either. And during all of this, he's still yapping. Not once during this entire sequence of events did he appear to acknowledge what was happening, nor did he ever pause in the first place. And I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out if he's just in denial or if it's some kind of like diversion tactic. I'm honestly kind of blown away. I then dragged him to the door by the arm, and for a second, he finally stopped talking. Maybe he wanted to finally talk about what he just did. Perhaps he wanted to apologize. But no, he asked me if I was going to host another session next week. I then shoved him out the door and I told him to get lost. Like the genuine gall of this jerk. I genuinely just can't tell if he's audacious or just very stupid. Because how someone like this even exists in the first place is truly beyond me. Oh my gosh, I hate thieves. If you've watched this channel for a long time, you know this about me, but dude, I cannot stand people who steal. So this is like, oh my God, my hair would be on fire, bro. I don't know if Benjamin would make it out of my house alive if I caught them actively stealing stuff, especially after I turn away for the first time when that's right, caught him stealing my stuff. Like this guy stuffed a book down his pants and then waited for you to turn around and then was like, oh, let me get these figurines too. Like, what are you doing? So like, seriously, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be posting about this pretty much everywhere because dude, other people need to know about this. Oh, and by the way, let's just like backtrack a little bit. What are you doing letting random people in your house? I am kind of blown away that you put out like an ad for people and you're like, hey, come over to my house and let's play Dungeons & Dragons. Like, bro, I would rather just wait for friends to be available and play with them than a bunch of strangers I don't even know, because this is what you get. You get a Benjamin who's coming into your house and they're like, ooh, I'm gonna steal some stuff. So yeah, dude, I would go crazy if someone tried that with me. I don't think I would not be in jail. Let me just put it that way, because because that's some crazy behavior. This guy clearly did not care at all about your property, nor did he have like any remorse. Like he just did not apologize at all. Instead, he asked like, "Oh, you gonna have another session? I want to steal some more." Like that's basically what he said, and that is really disturbing, and hopefully you don't have to deal with him ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled Karen made a waiter's life miserable for 20 minutes straight, but the second I spoke up and said something about it was the moment I realized that was the biggest mistake of my entire life, as this Karen freaked out on me in a way I honestly didn't expect and in a way that I don't think I'll forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few weeks ago, and oh my god, I still think about it sometimes. I was sitting alone at a cafe having lunch, just minding my own business. At the table next to me, there was a woman with a kid who was maybe like 8 years old if I'm guessing. Now, the kid seemed fine, honestly, pretty quiet if anything. It was the mom though that was the real problem of this situation. From the moment the waiter came over, she was in full performance mode. The kid ordered a grilled cheese sandwich, and this was simple enough. The waiter brings it out, the kid takes one look at it, and the mom immediately flags the waiter down. He doesn't like when the bread is too toasted. The waiter then apologizes and takes it back. A new one comes out, but the mom then says, "Actually, can you guys cut it diagonally? He prefers that." The waiter does that, and guess what? The kid hasn't even touched it yet. The mom then leans in, inspects it like she's checking for contraband, then looks up and says, "Is this a different bread than last time? It looks really different." Now, the waiter, who at this point has been standing at their table for a combined 15 minutes across multiple trips, very calmly said that it was the same bread. The mom then made this face like he had just insulted her entire family line and said very loudly, "I just want my son to have a good experience. Is that too much to ask?" Now, holy crap, that was the thing that got me. The kid was fine. He was playing with a straw and not paying attention to any of it. I then leaned over and I said something like, "The waiter's been really patient. Maybe give him a break." I kept my voice calm and I wasn't trying to start anything. Well, she turned to me so fast I actually flinched. Suddenly, I was a stranger who had no idea what it's like to raise a child, and she was going to speak to the manager about the hostile environment. Now, she did go to speak to the manager about me, and I got a very awkward apology from the manager who clearly just wanted everyone to calm down. Now, the waiter did catch my eye on the way out and mouthed the words "thank you," so I'm kind of choosing to focus on that instead of this entitled Karen freaking out on me in a way that honestly was a little alarming. Holy crap, I would never want to be in this situation. First off, sitting next to someone acting like this to a waiter who clearly is doing the best job they can is already awkward enough. So to then speak up and have it all just backfire on you completely is horrifying. It would be like, dude, can you just move me at this point? Can I sit literally anywhere else? This is a nightmare. This is my own personal circle of Hades that I don't want to live through. And it's especially true because the original poster is right. That kid doesn't care. Literally, he's like, "Okay, cool, grilled cheese." It's not like he's the one picking it apart being like, "This isn't good enough. This is the wrong kind of bread. I can't believe you did this." Like, holy crap, just chill out, lady. It's not that serious. I'm just trying to eat lunch at a cafe. Can you not act crazy for like 10 minutes? So yeah, that sounds like a terrible experience and I would not want to deal with that. My entitled, annoying neighbor literally refuses to listen to me when I tell her to please stop using my patio as overflow for any guests she has over at her house. Because after dealing with this multiple times and telling her to please stop it, she's not only refusing to listen to me, but she's also saying that I'm being hostile towards her just because I've confronted her and said, "No, you can't do this anymore," putting me in a weird pickle that honestly I never expected. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in a small apartment complex with those ground floor patios that are technically private, but still very visible from the courtyard. Mine is tiny with just 2 chairs, a plant shelf, and 1 storage bench where I keep gardening stuff, a blanket, and my shoes if they are muddy. Since spring started, my next door neighbor has been having people over a lot more, which is totally fine. Like, that's none of my business. What became my business was that her guests kept ending up on my patio because apparently there was more room there, and specifically on my storage bench. Now, at first, I really thought it was like a one-time thing, but it just kept happening over and over again. I would come home and find half-empty cans on my little table, my bench scooted 3 feet over, and once my cushion on the ground because somebody had apparently decided it looked better there. I asked her twice twice to please stop using my patio furniture, but she just laughed at me and said I was being kind of intense because, according to her, it's all basically one shared outdoor area visually. Well, last weekend, I came home and guess what? There were 3 people sitting on my bench while she was inside grabbing drinks. One of them actually apologized and said, "Oh, she told us to sit there. She said it was fine." So the next morning, I bought a simple outdoor lock for the bench lid and I looped it through the frame so it cannot be moved without undoing it. And sure, it looks a little bit ridiculous. I know, I totally get it. But now she's offended because she says that I made the courtyard look hostile and embarrassed her in front of company. Now, a couple of my neighbors think that I could have handled this a little less petty, but I honestly got tired of my patio turning into overflow seating for people I don't even know that well. So with all things in mind, am I the jerk in any way, shape, or form? Because right now my neighbor seems a little pissed off. Oh man, no, you're not the jerk at all. This was exhausting. How do people not understand that you can't just go through people's stuff like that and move stuff around that isn't yours, dude? That would never even cross my mind to even touch someone else's stuff. Unless you're like invading my space with your crap, which wasn't the case here. But it's like, dude, just don't touch my stuff, man. Like, what are we doing? It's especially obnoxious when your neighbor's like, "Oh wow, you're making things really hostile right now." And it's like, okay, let's think about this for a second, lady. What's being more hostile? You rearranging my furniture and moving my stuff around? Or me asking you multiple times, "Please stop touching my stuff," and then you turn around and just keep doing it anyways, laughing me off and being like, "Wow, you're being really intense right now." That would be way more hostile than me just locking my stuff up so you can't move it anymore. So no, the original poster's not the jerk. Their neighbor is a complete idiot. They're really trying to like twist this against them in a way that is completely unfair, because what they're asking is not unreasonable in the slightest. This next story is proof that if you're rich, you should probably keep that to yourself, as the original poster spills the beans to his girlfriend, who then immediately tells her parents, putting them in some hot water they really did not expect. Let's get started. Okay, for a bit of context about myself, I had a very rich and powerful dad who passed away when I was a child and left me with a lot of money. Well, after he passed away, all of his money-grubbing friends tried to dig their claws into me. They would try to manipulate me into signing on to things with them knowing I had money that could help them out, and I was just way too young to know what I should say no to. It got so bad that my mom ended up having to get me a personal lawyer and an advisor. Now, I never felt like I deserved the money I got because I didn't, and I felt like it brought so much evil into my life that I was not prepared for. So I made the decision to not touch it unless I absolutely needed it. We're talking stuff like school or medical needs or stuff like that. I've donated tens of millions, and at this point, about half of it to different causes that I know my dad would have cared about and what I care about. And oh my gosh, I want to jump in as the narrator real quick. Holy crap, this guy is like really rich. Not even like, oh, I got a little bit of money. No, this guy has like millions of dollars. That is insane. Anyways, back to the story. So needless to say, I don't tell anybody that I have this money after seeing what it does to people's behavior and how for a lot of people, they either see me as less or try to use me for their own gain. The only people that know are my mother and my childhood best friend. But now I've been dating my girlfriend for about 2 years, and I've got to say, she's like the first person I've really taken seriously as a candidate for my future. So about 6 months ago, I told her about my situation. I told her to not tell anybody though, not her parents, her friends, literally nobody. I was entrusting her with this because it's a relevant part of me, and it could potentially affect our future. Well, jump cut to a couple of months ago, and that's when things started getting weird. It was here that I noticed her parents were acting different around me. They were trying to mentor me and get closer to me. And at first, I really thought it was just us getting closer together, like them seeing me as a kind of son. But then I overheard my girlfriend talking to her parents on speakerphone, and they mentioned my trust and what I should be doing with it. And my God, I feel absolutely betrayed. And now I feel like I just don't trust her. I know to some people this might not seem like a big deal, but to me it always was. Because I just got so sick of people trying to use me or see what I've accomplished as less because I had money to start. After that, I started thinking back, and then I remembered her friend making a comment when I wouldn't pay for everybody's Uber. She said, "Oh, come on, you can afford it." I asked my girlfriend about it then, and she said, "Oh, she probably just assumes you have money because you have a nice car." Anyways, I'm trying to stay unbiased, and I really need your guys' help. I know a lot of this is probably stemming from my own ego, insecurity, and past experiences, but I'm still very upset that she betrayed my trust. So seriously, how do I move on from this? Because I really don't know what to do right now. Okay, dude, I gotta be honest with you, it does not sound like your girlfriend is loyal at all. Holy crap, she heard about this information and said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell everybody. And then jumped to her mom and said, he's loaded, he has so much money. And the original poster's like totally right. People turn into like vipers when they find out that someone is rich. Like just slithering around, waiting for the moment to strike and be like, ooh, can I have some money? And it's like, no, dude, this was such a good relationship. Why are you screwing it up? Now, I gotta be honest with you. I have no idea how to handle this situation. I've never had a ton of money, and I've never been in this situation of telling someone that I've got a ton of money. So this really is super foreign territory in my opinion. But I think if I were to like put myself in your shoes and imagine what it would be like if I really had this much experience of people trying to use me in the past based off of a wealth of money that I don't think I deserve, then yeah, this would be like a huge deal breaker for me. I would be pissed beyond description, dude. There's no way I would be okay with this. And the part that really doesn't settle well with me, like this is the part that I think really is alarming. It's the fact that she lied to you. She said, oh yeah, my mom just thinks you're rich because of your car, not because I blabbed and told her everything. But it's like, dude, you heard her talk about it on the phone. Like she is just straight up lying to you, and that is so not okay, because this could be about anything. You could have told her a deep dark secret and said, hey, don't tell anybody, especially not your parents. But to then find out that she told her parents and then lie to you about it, like dude, that is crazy. That is completely unacceptable and not okay. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be breaking up with her. This would be a complete deal breaker. You can't go behind my back like that and share my secrets with people that don't need to know, especially something like this, dude. But leave a comment down below. Would you break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend if they betrayed your trust like this? If they told their parents that, yeah, my boyfriend and or girlfriend is loaded, they've got millions of dollars in the bank, we're about to be rich. If they did that to you, would that be a deal breaker, or would you find some way to work through it? Leave a comment. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for unplugging the router while my roommate was gaming, all because he wouldn't turn his music down at 1 in the morning on a weekday? Because despite the fact that I explained I've got work in the morning, my roommate just literally didn't care, forcing me to take measures that honestly I'm starting to regret if I really think about it. Here's how it happened. Okay, to start things off, I'm a 25-year-old guy just trying to survive the grind of a 9-to-5 job. I also live with this dude who I will call Mark for the sake of the story, who thinks our apartment is his personal nightclub. Now, the events that took place happened on a Tuesday night, and I had a massive presentation the next morning that I needed to be rested up for. Mark was blasting his music in the living room at like 1 o'clock in the morning while screaming into his headset. Now, I went out there twice and I asked him nicely to please chill out so I could get some sleep. But guess what? He just laughed it off and told me to buy earplugs like a boomer. I was literally fuming at this point because I pay half the rent and I expect some basic decency. I then went back to my room. I waited about 10 minutes and I realized the bass was actually rattling my thin walls. So I walked out to the hallway where the main router is plugged in and I just yanked the cord right out of the wall. Then I heard a blood-curdling scream from his room a few seconds later. Mark then came storming out looking like he wanted to swing on me. He started yelling that I ruined his rank game and I got him a ban penalty for disconnecting. But I just deadpan looked at him and said, well, maybe you should have turned the music down when I asked. He then called me a massive jerk and hasn't spoken a word to me in 3 days. Now, I gotta say, my friends are split and some say it was a baller move, but others think I went a bit too far. So I need some help from the internet. Am I really the jerk for like unplugging the router in the way that I did? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest. I think what someone said in the comments section is exactly how I feel. You asked him twice, politely at 1 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. Bro, that is more than enough. I would have done the same thing. Let me tell you something. 9-to-5 jobs are a nightmare sometimes. You're busy, you're trying to get stuff done, you're under a deadline, and you're crunched for work. And it's like, bro, I've got a deadline, I've got a presentation, I need to make this happen. So to have a roommate like Mark, who really just does not care about your existence at all, like literally the definition of a waste of space, that would definitely set my teeth on edge. I don't know about you. Because dude, I work a big boy job. I don't have time to stay up till 1 in the morning on a weekday. And it also makes me wonder, like, does Mark have a job? Like, how is he staying up until 1 in the morning doing this kind of stuff? So honestly, I think you did the right thing. It sounds like Mark is unreasonable, and I really think you have every right to quiet hours in your living space. So for Mark to act this way is just not okay in my opinion. My entitled neighbor has started to take advantage of me when it comes to using my visitor spot, because it's become a pretty quick point of contention where they pretty much feel they're entitled to it, despite the fact that I'm giving it to them just to be nice. Because now things have escalated and I really just don't know what to do from here. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, I live in townhouses on a reservation in Ontario. There's no parking for visitors and each unit gets like 2 spaces in total. I myself have 1 car and my neighbor usually parks 3 cars. I don't have visitors to too often, so I don't mind if my neighbors use my visitor spot when I'm not using it. But I do, however, always put my garbage out in my visitor spot so that I don't block my own car in. Well, my neighbors decided that was an invitation for them to park in my main spot. When I pulled up, I saw that I literally had nowhere to park. I knocked on the door and I asked them to please just move their vehicle, and the woman said to me, "Oh, I only parked there because you blocked the other spot with your garbage." I then said to him, "Well, we each get 2 spaces. You're welcome to use my extra space when I'm not using it." But she then began muttering about how she's First Nations and how she's from here, which could only mean that she felt entitled to my space. But just because my husband and I are blonde-haired, blue eyes, doesn't mean that we're not status members of the community, so what she was saying felt a little bit messed up. This interaction also felt extra disrespectful since I did have guests, and they literally had nowhere to park, but regardless, I just left it alone. I've also shoveled their space, brought back their empty garbage bins because I was already grabbing my own after pickup. I've even picked up their McDonald's wrappings and other miscellaneous loose garbage from the front of my unit, and just in general have tried to be a good neighbor. Now, she did end up moving her car, but continued using my space. In fact, this neighbor, or the teenage kids, I can't really say for sure which one, actually went as far as to shovel their snow over onto my freshly shoveled parking spot and walkway. But after that, I quietly set a boundary with myself that the friendly neighborhood help from my end stops right now. No more silent gestures of kindness, literally nothing. And so with that, I continue putting my garbage in my guest spot on garbage day, but now directly behind her car. She actually came out and moved the garbage into my main spot so that she could leave, but I then just went right back out and moved it back straight away. She then pulled back up several minutes later and looked dumbfounded and just parked for like several minutes, probably deciding what to do. So ever since then, we've been basically playing musical chairs with garbage. So I need to know, am I really the jerk in this situation? Sure, it may be petty and I could walk further and put it somewhere else, I suppose, but the way they're acting is kind of stupid and kind of pissing me off, and at this point I don't really know what else to do. Okay, this is a classic case of your neighbors are super entitled and they clearly don't understand that you are the reason they have an extra parking spot. Because good lord, are you kidding me right now? They literally are going out of their way to be rude to you. You know, the person who's going out of the way to be like, "Oh, let me be a good neighbor." You're shoveling their driveway, you're cleaning up their garbage. You're literally doing everything you can on your end just to be like a good normal neighbor. Meanwhile, they're shoveling snow onto your cleared pathway, and it's like, dude, how weird can you get? Like, what are we talking about? I don't care where you're from. This spot is mine, and if I don't want you to have it, then guess what? You're not gonna get it. So no, you're not the jerk for blocking their car or for putting your garbage cans in front of your spot, because if they're gonna wear out their welcome that fast by being super toxic, then in my opinion, you have every right to do whatever you want. My entitled coworker is constantly monitoring what I'm doing while also being very passive-aggressive, micromanaging me at any chance she gets. But after this coworker invaded my privacy by breaking into my computer to read my direct messages to one of my coworkers, I decided enough was enough, as I decided to report her, with this coworker saying that she would retaliate against me if I said anything to anybody, putting me in a situation where honestly, I seriously just don't know what to do, and I don't know if I'm making a mistake. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things off, I'm a 27-year-old female, and I have a coworker who I will call Amy for the sake of the story. We're both the same age, and we used to be really good friends when I first started at my job. I then went through something very traumatic, and then everything changed. She started to treat me differently a lot, lots of tension and mistreatment. In the almost 2 years since that happened, Amy has been snarky with me and low-key creating a hostile work environment. She would have little outbursts at me when no one else was around when I would speak to her. Our work is in a lab and very much requires team collaboration and communication. Well, Amy watches what I do and tries to interfere with me doing anything. I've tried to remain neutral-toned and straightforward, but at times it gets hard, especially when someone's been grinding you down every shift for over a year. So I'm not gonna lie, I probably had an undesirable tone when speaking to her at times, but I would say it was never unprompted. Our team has gone through some changes. The old manager left, so the team lead, who I will call Sammy, is now the manager. And that's great, except for the fact that Sammy is Amy's cousin, and they are really close. Sammy assured me that he is objective and is here for everyone the same, and Amy has a different reporting manager. But Amy's new manager is not on site, so Sammy is still her manager, just not on paper. A meeting is set up in the beginning of December to talk about Amy and I's working relationship. We both discussed what we had been feeling. I took accountability for times my tone was not as kind, and I also brought up how I'm feeling monitored by her, and I would like her to trust me to do my job. I am a very high-performing member of the team, and I do my job well. But guess what? She did not take any accountability for anything. She also brought up that I need to trust her and her decisions. We then just agreed to move on a clean slate and just reset. Well, on December 17th, I come into work, and I noticed that my Teams has been left on a chat with a friend of mine who's also a coworker, who for the sake of the story I will call Carly, who works in a different state. And that's really odd because I haven't talked to her in quite a few weeks. I then look at the camera and I follow the last time I logged in, and just as I suspected, Amy takes advantage of my account being open and spends 5 minutes reading my messages with Carly. She opens Teams and opened my messages with Carly, very clearly by the way in the video, showing her intent. So I gather my evidence and I am pissed off. I don't know exactly what she read, but I definitely would rant to Carly about Amy, some of my other coworkers, the work and personal stuff, and a bunch of other things. Now, I like to handle things face to face before escalating to management, so I ask Amy to speak in private. We then talk and she just outright admits to reading my messages and then blames it on her curiosity. She said she was suspicious I was talking about her since at least September. And you know what? She tried her best to turn the conversation around and talk about what I talk about with Carly and who I'm allowed to talk to regarding her. I kept trying to redirect the conversation back to her snooping around on my stuff, but she just kept giving the same excuses. After going around in circles, I let her know that due to this conversation, I will have to bring this up to at least Sammy. But she said if I tell him, then she will tell people what I said in my messages to Carly. She went on pushing for me to apologize, but I ended the conversation and I just left the room. I went back and forth on going to human resources versus just talking to my manager, but in the end, I decided to go to human resources because for one, Sammy is her cousin. Number two, she invaded my privacy. 3, she basically said she was going to retaliate if I said anything. And number 4, the previous meeting in December. Human resources wanted to wait for me to meet with Sammy this week, but I pushed for meetings with a neutral party before or during that meeting just to ensure objectively that this gets handled properly. I will absolutely own everything I said to Carly. And by the way, I did not say anything that could even be considered bullying. In fact, the only message that I know for sure she read was me talking about how she is in my business all the time and becoming increasingly passive aggressive. I have no issue if she tells anyone what I said, but more so, it's a problem with her threatening me with it. I spoke with human resources and Amy's manager, and they told me they're taking this very seriously and an investigation has been started. Amy's also been taken off the schedule the last week of December, and I've not seen her or Sammy ever since then. In fact, I'm gonna find out what happens to Amy in the next few days. I have felt a roller coaster of emotions since discovering that she's done this. So it honestly makes me beg the question, am I overreacting by reporting her to human resources and for pushing for such a serious action to be taken? Because right now I honestly don't know if I made a mistake. Okay, I can say first and foremost, no, you did not make a mistake here. You are not in the wrong for reporting a coworker acting like this. Like, dude, she's invading your privacy, she's micromanaging you and treating you like crap. She also has no accountability for her terrible actions. Like, dude, this is some awful behavior. I would be so annoyed by this. Even worse, she said that if you say anything to anybody, she's gonna retaliate against you and try to like ruin your job. And guess what? That is absolutely not allowed. Retaliation is a fireable offense. Like, what is Amy thinking? Dude, that is such a stupid plan. That's not going to work out in her favor. If anything, it probably put like the nail in the coffin for Amy working there. Like, I can absolutely see her getting fired. So no, you did not do anything wrong. Like, holy crap, you do not want someone like that working at your office because they are a nightmare to deal with. So in my opinion, I think you did the right thing and Amy absolutely has to go. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for excluding my brother from a fun event? All because his wife really talks way too much. Because after multiple times where she literally dominates the conversation regardless of what we're doing, I've kind of hit a breaking point where I'm deciding not to invite my brother simply because I don't want his wife there. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things off, I'm having a game night and I would love for my brother to attend, but I do not enjoy the company of his wife. Not because she's like a bad person or anything like that, but because she has no ability to control herself in a social setting. She not only dominates any conversation and is very loud, as it looks like she only has like one volume, but she will also rarely ask anyone questions about themselves without immediately jumping on what they're saying to make it about her. So unfortunately, due to her behavior, I have to exclude my brother from this event, and likely future events, because there's no way he would show up without her. My brother has been married for a year. This is not new behavior from her, and I have discussed it with him. He says he knows that it's annoying and disruptive, and that he has always talk to her about it, but nothing seems to change. This happens at dinners and family gatherings, etc. And it's like I have to specifically seek him out alone if I even want to talk to him at all. If they're together, she cannot stop talking for the both of them, and he literally just can't get a word in. I understand it's probably an anxiety thing, and she claims to be going to a therapist for the past couple of years, but I just don't know if there's anything more I can do without being rude. Now, here's where I may be the jerk. I'm inviting some cousins and some of my close friends to game night that just so happen to live much further than my brother and his wife. I haven't told them, but I am concerned about them finding out and being hurt that I'd like the chance for everyone to participate in a conversation. Last time she was at game night, she delayed people's turns because she wouldn't stop talking and was practically yelling over people trying to participate in the game about unrelated things. So am I the jerk for excluding them on her behavior? Because right now I'm not sure how this is going to go down. Okay, in my opinion, this is one of those situations where your brother needs to step up and say something to his wife, because clearly this is a big enough problem where it's like, okay, we cannot move forward without this being addressed. And no, for the record, the way she's acting is completely weird. Plus, it's so obnoxious. Like, dude, relax. Take a seat and let other people talk. Don't scream over others just to like dominate the conversation. That is super annoying, and I absolutely don't blame the original poster for like not inviting the brother in this scenario. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. I think I would absolutely do the same thing if I was in your shoes, because your brother's wife sounds incredibly annoying. Am I the jerk for refusing to chip in for a coworker's birthday gift when I literally barely know them? Because right now, some people at my office are kind of treating me a little bit differently, and now I'm not sure what to do next. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work at a mid-size office with about 30 people in total. Last week, someone who I will call Susan went around the office saying that we're all chipping in for a birthday gift for a coworker who I will call Jenna. Now, she works in a different department than me, and while I recognize her face, we've maybe exchanged a few hellos in the hallway, and that's about it. We don't work together, and we have never talked outside of that. Now, Susan, the organizer, suggested that everybody pitch in about $20 for a gift card and a cake. And at first, I didn't really respond. Later that day, Susan stopped by my desk and asked if I was in. I then said I was going to pass since I don't really know Jenna, and I didn't usually participate in office gift collections unless it's someone I work closely with. She looked surprised and said to me, "It's just $20. But I told her that I get that, but it feels weird to me to pay for gifts for people I don't have a relationship with. She then just kind of brushed it off and said okay, but after that, things felt really awkward. Ever since then, a couple of coworkers have been noticeably colder towards me, and one even joked that I'm that guy, meaning the guy who didn't put $20 in. And I'm now starting to wonder if I broke some kind of like unspoken office rule and came off as cheap or even like antisocial. I don't mind celebrating people I actually work with, but I also don't think gift giving should be mandatory, especially for someone I barely know. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I don't really know what to do right now. Okay, holy crap, if you do the math, that lady would have gotten like $600 from everybody just for a gift card and cake for this Jenna lady. Like, Susan was probably just pocketing half the money and being like, okay, here's like a $30 gift card. Meanwhile, I've basically made like half a grand. It's like, dude, yeah, it's only $20, but guess what? Why do I have to give you $20? Why don't I get a small gift for Jenna myself and leave it on her desk? In fact, why should I give you any money? From the sounds of it, it kind of seems like Susan was just straight up scamming everybody in the office, because who in their right mind is going to get like a $600 gift for somebody in the office that you work with? Like, I've had coworkers where it's like, yeah, we're like really close, but I'm not about to spend like $600 on you. Like, are you insane? Especially for someone you literally don't even know. Like, bro, what is going on right now? How can anyone be upset about this? So no, you're not the jerk. This is honestly kind of a weird ask in my opinion, because yeah, it's only $20, but that is still, in my opinion, way too much money. Am I the jerk for refusing to co-sign for my brother after I learned that he's already burned family and hid his debts from pretty much everybody? Because after I said no, he pretty much started to tarnish my name to anybody who would listen, putting me in a situation where honestly, I'm not sure if I made a mistake, and I really just don't know what to do now. Here's how it all started. Okay, so I have an older brother who I will call Dylan, who is the type to be charming when he needs something and offended when you ask any kind of question. He's always got a temporary setback story. Maybe it's a slow month, or a client who didn't pay, or an unexpected expense, etc. My mom has a soft spot for him, and I've tried to be supportive without being a sucker. Last week, he called me sounding unusually serious, and it's here that he asked if I would co-sign for a loan because he just needs a bridge for the next few months. He framed it like he had no other options and said it would be quick, no big deal, literally just his signature, and then he'd refinance out of it once things stabilized. Well, I just told him I would think about it because I didn't want to say no without knowing details. The night I called my aunt, who is like the only person in the family who actually says things plainly, to ask if she knew what was going on, she suddenly went quiet. She then told me that Dylan Dylan already asked her husband for help last year, and it turned into a giant mess. Apparently, Dylan convinced them to cover a couple of payments just once, and then stopped communicating, and then acted insulted when they asked for receipts and a plan. They then ended up paying off a chunk to avoid collections hitting their credit. And you know what? Dylan never paid them back. My aunt said that my mom knows most of this, but downplays it as misunderstandings because she doesn't want Dylan to look bad. I felt my stomach drop because Dylan never mentioned any of it, and he's been talking to me like I'm the first person he's ever asked. I also found out through a cousin that Dylan has multiple maxed out cards and has been bouncing these payment plans, which he also never told me. So when Dylan called again, I told him I'm not co-signing anything and I'm not putting my credit on the line. I then offered to sit down and help him make a budget or look at options that didn't involve me signing, but regardless, I'm not signing anything. Well, when I said that, he got angry fast and said I'm judging him based on family gossip and that I'm abandoning him when he's trying to fix his life. He said if I cared about him, I would trust him and that I'm acting like I think I'm better than him. Then my mom called me the next day and basically begged me to reconsider because this is family and he is so stressed out. And apparently I'm the only one who can help him out. And she made it sound like I'm causing the crisis by saying no. Now I'm getting messages that I'm cold and selfish, and my brother's telling people that I refuse to help him get stable. So honestly, am I at fault here in any way, shape, or form? Am I the jerk for refusing to co-sign for a loan that I know is just gonna burn some bridges? What should I do? Because right now I'm seriously at a loss. Okay, in my opinion, the fact that you know that your aunt basically went through the same thing and she dealt with your brother being a complete weirdo and being like, oh, I have no one else to go to, I need a loan. That would be everything I would need to see to be like, yeah, I'm not helping you at all. You're clearly just gonna burn me, this is not gonna end well for me, and I'm absolutely not gonna put up with this. Because this guy's already burned one person in the family, who's to say he wouldn't do that again to you? So I think saying no is the only smart decision here, especially when you look at the way your brother's acting. You told him, no, I can't help you, but let's figure out a different solution. And he literally started lying and be like, oh, he's ruining my life. He's refusing to help me get stable in my life. And it's like, dude, why is that my responsibility? I'm not responsible for your life falling apart. That's on you, dude. What are you talking about? So no, if I was in your shoes, I would not look back and I would keep plowing forward because this kind of shaming and guilt tripping is completely annoying and incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for refusing to change our entire trip last minute, all because my partner's best friend invited himself into our trip, as he wanted to change just about everything about our plans around so that it would accommodate some of the things he wanted to do instead of the things that we had already planned to do ourselves? Because right now I am incredibly frustrated, as I feel like this guy is ruining everything that we planned out and I just don't know what else to do here, because I seriously feel like I'm losing my mind. Here's what happened. So my partner and I have had a short trip planned for months. Nothing fancy, just 4 days booked in another city, a couple museums, a one-day hike, and one do nothing and eat snacks in bed kind of day. We booked the train, we got a small hotel, and I even pre-booked timed entry tickets for a museum because it sells out fast. I'm the annoying planner type, I will admit it, but this is the first time in a while that I've actually looked forward to something. Well, a week ago, my partner mentioned that his friend, who I will call Mark for the sake of the story, might be in the same city around the same time for a thing he has with work. Mark and my partner have known each other forever, so I said sure, we can grab a drink if he's free. That sounded normal. Then Mark found out our exact dates, and suddenly it became, dude, I should just come with you guys, it'll be fun. I laughed it off at first oh yeah, sure. But then he kept pushing, not just joining for dinner, he wanted to take the same train, split a larger Airbnb instead of our hotel, and change the schedule so we do stuff that he likes. He's big on nightlife and spontaneous plans, which is also known as deciding at 11 p.m. where we go next and then sleeping until noon. Well, I told my partner I'm not into changing everything. The hotel is booked, our tickets are booked, and honestly, I don't want to share an apartment with Mark, even if he is a nice guy. I like having a door I can close and not feeling like I need to socialize the entire time. My partner said that Mark is easy and it would be rude to say no when he's already excited, but I said it's rude to invite yourself into someone else's trip and then act like you're the one doing them a favor. Mark then sends me a text directly, not even my partner, and says, hey, I found a sick Airbnb. It's cheaper and we can all hang out. You're definitely gonna love it. I then said we're keeping our hotel and our plans, but we can meet up one night. He then replied by saying, why are you being so strict about it? It's a vacation, relax. And that honestly made my eye twitch. Yes, it is a vacation, which is why I don't want to spend it compromising with a third person who wasn't part of it in the first place. Now my partner is sulking around and says I'm making it weird and that he feels stuck in the middle of this. Mark told him I don't like him and that I'm controlling the trip, and I don't hate Mark, I just don't want my break turned into a group project. I'm not saying my partner can't see him, I'm just refusing to blow up our bookings and rework everything 1 week out. So am I the jerk for holding my ground and keeping the trip as planned? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, I will never understand how anybody can invite themselves on someone else's trip. That is obnoxious. It is so cringeworthy, and I can't imagine doing that because that would be such an obstruction of what they're trying to do. Dude, you have no business being a part of this. They obviously have their own plans. They're doing their own thing. So for Mark to step in and be like, I found a better Airbnb, go ahead and cancel that hotel. We're gonna have a lot of fun together. And it's dude, you were never invited. I don't know why you're trying to hijack my plans, but holy crap, I don't want you here. This also sucks because your partner's trying to be like, oh, come on, Mark and I are friends. And it's dude, yeah, you're friends, but guess what? You can hang out some other time. You can schedule an elaborate get-together some other time besides the one that I literally planned out for us. And I think if I was in the original poster's shoes, that's the part that would probably bother me the most, is that my partner is not appreciating the fact that I put a lot of work into planning this. They got the hotel, they got literally everything together for museum tickets and all this other stuff. They booked the train and all the transportation and all the worry you would possibly have on a trip like this. The original poster literally took care of all of that, and now Mark's stepping in trying to essentially ruin the entire experience. And that would be so annoying to me. You're looking forward to this one thing and then suddenly some idiot comes out of nowhere and ruins it. And also, I completely agree with the original poster here. I do not want to have to socialize and entertain someone on my vacation, meaning that I do not want to share an Airbnb with Mark, dude. That would be so annoying. Not to mention stressful because Mark's gonna be all over the nightlife and the spontaneous plans, which by the way, I would not be up for. Dude, I do not want to go to a club and watch you get wasted for 3 hours. I'm sorry, but that's not gonna happen. So no, with everything in mind, dude, you have every right to turn this guy down and be like, no, you're not gonna come along with us. And the fact that your partner's not being more straightforward in this situation is only making things worse, which is really unfair for you because you put so much hard work into this, and I think you deserve to have a good vacation without Mark trying to ruin it. An entitled Karen cuts in line when going to the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, causing problems not only for me, but literally the people behind us, as this lady stepped in right behind us and then claimed that she's not moving when we confronted her, which truly blew me away because I could not believe the audacity of this woman or the entitlement she had to stand there and pretend like she was in line the entire time. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I go to Epcot once a year with my boyfriend and in-laws for Food and Wine Festival. I've never had a bad experience at the park, and people are usually cranky but reasonable. Well, I met a truly stunning individual this year. My boyfriend and I were in line for one of the food pop-ups, and a young woman walks up to us asking if this is the line. We replied in the affirmative and that the end is all the way back there. Well, we went back to our conversation, but she stood next to the line while we were waiting. When the line moved up, she tried to step in front of us, and we didn't confront her, but we were like, no, not happening, and I took a big step in front of her. We continued talking, and she slipped into line right behind us. We both gave her a look, and I made some comment about people having manners. But again, we didn't want to confront her, so we just ignored her. I don't want to get banned from the park because I started a fight over a cut line, so whatever. A minute later, the couple that had been waiting in line behind us said something along the lines of, hey, do you guys know this woman? And we confirmed that we absolutely did not. They then politely asked the cutter to move to the back of the line, and she flat out refused. She would not budge. She then tried to lie and say that she had been in the line the whole time, but we have eyes, so obviously that didn't work. We then all commented on how wild it was that she would blatantly cut the line and then refuse to move, but she had no shame and just stayed right where she was. And if I'm being honest, this story doesn't really have a good ending because I didn't feel like pitching a fit over some food, but I still get mad thinking about it even to this day. It is just one person, so it's not like she took that much time or it was that much of an inconvenience, but it was her attitude and mindset. And I honestly have no idea how some people are just so entitled. Oh man, you're better than me because I absolutely would have made a scene. I don't know about you, but there's no way anybody's gonna cut in line like that, especially when the people in front of you and behind you have waited for so long just to get into Epcot. And I know the festival this person's talking about, and holy crap, that is very busy. I have friends and family that have gone to that, and they've always told me that, yeah, these lines are crazy. So this lady cutting in line is a huge deal in my opinion, because sure, it's only one person, but also it's obnoxious that she thought she could get away with that. So if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would have flagged down a cast member and been like, this lady cut in line and I've got evidence. And then hopefully as a group, we can all cast this woman back to the end of the line because that is exactly where she should have been in the first place. My boyfriend has been secretly trolling my streams with my friends, saying some of the most vile and disgusting things I've ever heard in my life that almost led to me filing a police report against this user. But now that I found out the truth, I am seriously considering breaking up with this guy because I am very freaked out and I just don't know what to do next. Here's what's happening. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years and we live together. Overall, he's always been sweet, funny, and kind, and we argue sometimes, but it's never anything serious. He always told me that he doesn't really use social media besides Snapchat, Or so I thought. Last night, we were smoking and hanging out when he went to the gas station. While he was gone, I kept hearing a weird vibration and dinging noise, and eventually I realized it was coming from under our dresser. When I went down to look, I pulled out an iPad I had never seen before. It was covered in stickers from his video games, and the wallpaper was a picture of our dog, so clearly it was his. And I seriously had no idea he even owned an iPad. Once I got in, I saw non-stop notifications from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, etc. Like, this guy literally had everything. All the accounts were anonymous or spam looking, but they were all tied to his email. I started opening the notifications and I was honestly disgusted. He was commenting on women's bodies, saying they needed to wear more makeup, he was body shaming them, leaving hateful comments on YouTube, and trolling people on Reddit. On Twitter and Instagram, he was constantly insulting people for no reason, but nothing prepared me for what I found next. I like to game and live stream with my friends a few times a week just for fun, and for the past year, there's been this one account that always joins our stream and says the most awful things that you can possibly think of, while also telling us we need to wear more makeup, we should dress prettier, while also insulting our looks, and sending us awful messages about how nobody would want to watch us looking like that. It got so bad that when we would block the account, they would just make a new one. We eventually stopped streaming 6 months ago because of it. I almost filed a police report at one point. Well, last night I realized it was my boyfriend. He has been trolling me and my friends the entire time. This wasn't just popping in and leaving. He would stay the entire live stream, saying horrible personal things about us. I genuinely don't understand why someone would do this to their girlfriend. Like, I really thought our relationship was good. I haven't told him yet, and I've been at my friend's house all day because I just can't look at him without feeling sick. So am I overreacting if I want to break up with him over this? My friend thinks filing a restraining order is over the top and can ruin his career, but at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Holy crap, this is absolutely a good reason to break up with someone. Imagine trying to stream and have a good time with your friends, only to find out it's your boyfriend who's been trolling you the entire time. And if you're listening to this and you've ever streamed, trust me, you probably understand where I'm coming from. Because there are people out there who are so mean and so nasty that it just doesn't make any sense. They will say these horrible things to you and just keep coming back over and over again, just so they can have this anonymous face to say these terrible things. Like, I don't know about you, but that is obnoxious and so uncalled for. But honestly, the most alarming part is that this guy does this to other women online. Like, you're not the only person this is happening to. He's jumping on every social media site and treating other women like garbage, and that is a huge red flag. So yeah, you are absolutely within your right to be like, yeah, we need to break up because this is some crazy behavior. He's obviously got some secret hatred towards women, and that is not fair for you at all. You literally haven't done anything wrong, and this guy is absolutely the problem. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled friend expects me to illustrate his book for free, as he expects me to finalize, design, and sketch out a brand new character out of nowhere, literally in 2 days flat. And despite the fact that I've told him I'm way too busy for this and I simply don't have time, he keeps coming back over and over again, completely oblivious to the fact that I'm simply unavailable. And at this point, I'm really frustrated and I just don't know what else to do. Here's how it all started. Okay, so a friend and I took an art class for a year or two, and we had this colorful idea that one day we would write a book and that I would be the illustrator. And at the time, I was not really all that busy, but I still gave a strong maybe. Eventually though, he got to a writer's block and just kind of gave up. And when I saw this, I assumed that he wasn't all that serious about it and just kind of forgot all about it. About 6 months had passed since school ended when I get a text from him asking if I would like to illustrate for his book for free. Since then, I'd gotten into an online college course and a job, meaning that I'm pretty swamped at the moment. So naturally, I say, I don't know, man, I'm kind of swamped. I just don't know if I have time for this. I really do not like saying no. So I was trying to let him off easy while not seeming completely uninterested in his project. He gives me the rundown and honestly, I'm just terribly uninterested. I then tell him it's a cool idea, but again, I'm really busy. Well, the next day, there's a new message. He describes the character to me like commissioning an original character to be drawn, and the most hysterical part is that he expects this character to be designed, finalized, sketched, and done in 2 mother-loving days, which is, of course, impossible. I confirmed this with him, but then he only just wants the heads to be drawn, which is still very impossible and definitely seemingly not worth the price of being completely free. I explained the situation one last time, and yet he still holds out hope. As this kind of blew me away because this guy really was expecting me to work for free. Wow, this guy's a piece of garbage. You literally told him you're too busy to do this, and still he's like, oh yeah, could you draw this character in 2 days? Thanks. Like, dude, I don't know anything about art, but I'm pretty sure that's probably not going to be possible. Like, I'm sure there's some kind of research or like design process that goes into it just to figure out exactly what you want this character to look like. And this guy's like, oh yeah, I need you to do this in like 2 days for me. What do you mean you're busy? I don't care. Just do it for free. And let me tell you something, and this is especially meant for the original poster. You absolutely need to learn how to say no, I'm not available. And trust me, I've been in that scenario where it's like, oh man, I don't want them to hate me by turning them down. But seriously, if you're not available to do something, don't pressure yourself to do it just because it's like a friend or some crap like that. It doesn't matter who it is. If you're not available, then bro, kick him to the curb, or at least do it politely in a way where it's like, yeah, I have no time for this, so I hope you get it figured out. Because if you're not available, then that's the end of the story, and that literally is the end of the conversation. And the fact that you left this a little bit ambiguous gave this guy plenty of room to still expect stuff out of you for free, which is insane in my opinion. Am I the jerk for kicking my relatives out of my apartment after I came back from a work trip and found that they had completely trashed the place? Because right now I'm honestly very pissed off and I just don't know what else to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I'm a woman in my late 20s and I live alone in a small but very cozy apartment that I worked very hard to afford. A few months ago, I had a long work trip planned out, almost 3 weeks, and around that time some distant relatives reached out. They were visiting the city for personal reasons and they asked if they could stay at my place for just a little bit. Now, we're not very close, and I see them maybe once every couple of years at family gatherings, but my mom pushed me a little and said that it would be the right thing to do. And I did agree, but also it came with some very clear rules. No parties, no extra guests, clean up after yourselves, and treat it like it's yours. While I was away, they sent a few polite messages thanking me again, saying everything was fine. I honestly didn't think much about it because I was busy with work and some deadlines. When I finally came back home, I opened the door and I instantly felt my stomach drop. The apartment smelled bad. Trash bags were piled near the door. The dishes were stacked in the sink like they hadn't been washed for days. My couch had stains. My bathroom looked like a public restroom. And some of my personal items were moved or used without asking. One of my plants was completely dead too, which sounds stupid, but it really upset me. Well, I confronted them right away. They laughed it off at first, saying they didn't have time to clean yet and that I was overreacting. And that really hit a nerve. I told them this wasn't what we agreed on and that I wanted them to leave. Not in a screaming way, but in a very firm way. Well, they got offended when I said this, saying that family doesn't kick family out like that. But I told them family also doesn't trash someone's home. They then packed up and left the same day, clearly angry. But after that, things got worse. Apparently, they told the rest of the family their version of it, and that I threw them out without warning, that I was cold, selfish, and that I cared more about my apartment than about people. And now I'm getting passive-aggressive messages. Some relatives stopped talking to me, and my mom says I should have handled it more gently. I feel guilty sometimes, but at the same time, I feel like my boundaries were completely ignored. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm kind of at a loss. No, you're not the jerk. These people disrespected your boundaries, dude. If I came back to my apartment and someone had trashed it and their excuse was, oh, we didn't have time to do it, sorry about that, and then tried to argue that, oh, we're family, don't kick me out, what do you mean? You can't do this to us. I would be pissed beyond belief, dude. This is my home and you come in and trash the place? Like, what's going on right now? Because chances are, the entire time you were gone on that trip, they probably didn't clean once. And that is so gross. Like, oh my God, they didn't clean anything, like nothing at all. And then they want to sit there and be like, oh, come on, don't be like that. Like, bro, I'd be forcing them to hire a cleaning service at that point. That is so gross. So no, you're not the jerk for kicking them out. Because trust me, if that was me, that would be like the first and last time they would ever come and visit me. Especially if they disrespected my space like that. Like, that is absolutely uncalled for and that is not okay. Am I the jerk for snapping at my uncle after he kept calling me a girl because of my hair? Because after I was literally just trying to set up a nice dinner with my girlfriend, I finally snapped on this guy and put him in his place, causing him to freak out, saying that I crossed a line, despite the fact that he started literally all of this. Here's what's going on. Okay, for starters, I'm a 19-year-old male and I have long curly hair. I've been growing it out for a few years and I take care of it. I use conditioner, I have leave-ins and curl creams for when I need a little more styling as well, and the brand I use has a little silhouette of a woman on it, and it is technically for women. Last week, my girlfriend had a really stressful week, so I cooked her dinner. My parents wouldn't be coming home till late, so I set up candles, I wrote her a card, and I tried to make it nice with flowers flowers and all this other stuff. As I was setting up, my uncle comes into the room, and for context, he is bald and divorced and currently living with us. He looked around at the candles and said, "This looks like something a girl would set up." I didn't really respond, but he followed it up by saying, "You do a lot of girly stuff for a guy, and with all that girly hair stuff too, you're really selling it." I then told him to back off, and he just kind of laughed and said, "Relax, don't be so sensitive." While I was setting up, he kept making small comments like, "Oh, careful, don't break a nail," and would just randomly talk about the fact that I was cooking for her and how girly that was. And I just kept telling him that he was really funny and just making it clear I was annoyed. It started really getting on my nerves, so I said to him, "Why in the world would I take relationship advice from you? You're divorced. Also, you can't talk about my hair when you're literally bald." When I said this, he got all up in my face and got really pissed off immediately. He then said that I crossed a huge line by bringing up his divorce and that I was being disrespectful. We then both got in each other's faces, and he was saying some stuff about not disrespecting him, and he eventually just left the kitchen. Later on, my mom talked to me and said that she gets why I was upset, but also thinks I should apologize because he's already embarrassed about his situation and I didn't need to make it personal. Plus, she just didn't want us to have any issues. So I'm starting to think that maybe I crossed the line and went a bit too deep, and that in fact I might be the jerk here. But honestly, I'm not sure, and I seriously don't know how to handle this. Okay, in my opinion, if you're gonna dish it, you better be ready to take it. Because no, the original poster is not the jerk, and the uncle absolutely deserved to get shut down. Like, bro, if you're gonna sit there and be like, "Oh wow, you look like a girl. You're gonna break a nail setting up all that stuff. Wow, look at that girly hair." Like, if you're gonna go that route, then congratulations, the way you look and your life is absolutely up for grabs. And it's so funny to me because this guy can treat you like crap over and over again, but the second you reciprocate that energy, oh, suddenly we've crossed the line. Suddenly it's too far and it's like, "Oh no, you can't go there. How dare you cross that line? I can't believe you. You're being so disrespectful." But it wasn't disrespectful earlier when you're saying like, "Oh, you look like a girl and you're doing all these girly things." Because yeah, those were insults. He was absolutely trying to insult the original poster. Like apparently those are okay, but no, I can't fire back at this guy and shut him down. Like no, I don't think so. If he's gonna dish it, he better be ready to take it. Because if he wants to be immature, then we can absolutely return in kind. An entitled group of people come into my restaurant and literally sit in my section for 2 hours, causing trouble and just being a general nuisance to my sanity. But after making me run around on a wild goose chase for like the entire night, these idiots actually had the audacity to ask for a discount. And it was right at this moment that I knew I was definitely not going to receive a tip, even though I did everything I could to make sure that these people were satisfied. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so 30 minutes before closing, a 4-top came in. And honestly, everything started out normal, but then they wanted to move tables, not once but twice, but then they started complaining about everything. They said the lighting was wrong, the music was too loud, but then when we turned the music down, apparently it was too quiet. Getting their order took forever because everyone needed just 1 more minute, and when they finally ordered, 2 people changed their minds completely. One sent the food back because it didn't taste like last time, even though they had never been here before. They asked for extra sauces, then they asked for more sauces, and then different sauces. Then they complained there were too many sauces on the table, and you know what? By the end of the night, I had been to that table more than my entire section combined. Eventually, I dropped the check and they sat on it forever. Finally, someone flagged me down and said, "We've been here a long time. Is there any kind of discount we can get?" But I just smiled and said, "No, but I can run your card whenever you're ready." Well, at the end of it, they left $3 on a $140 tab. The last thing I did before clocking out was bussing their table and throwing away a full plate of food they insisted they didn't want after asking for it to be remade, which was truly obnoxious and very annoying. Okay, I cannot stand needy customers. I've worked in the server industry before, and this is so frustrating. Like, my God, do I have to hold your hand through the entire experience? You really can't figure things out for yourself. Like, how do you function as an adult? In fact, how did you drive here? Did your mommy and daddy drop you off, or are you like a responsible adult or something similar to that? Like, what's going on right now? That's so weird. And I don't know about you, but them asking to move tables like twice would have probably made me go crazy. Like, there is no way I would put up with that. So to the original poster, you have my full sympathy. I know exactly what this is like. It is so obnoxious to put up with, and honestly, you're just kind of stuck waiting for them to leave. Because you already know at the end of the day, you're probably not going to get any kind of tip, which makes the entire experience of waiting on them completely not worth it and very frustrating. My entitled downstairs neighbor keeps making false claims towards the homeowners association just to give us a hard time ever since we moved in. So we decided to get some petty revenge by returning the favor and making her life a living nightmare with all the noise we were making during the day, which finally led to her selling her property off and moving out of the condominium. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start things out, we moved from a house to a condo, so I knew that we would have an adjustment. The building is just 18 units, and due to its lovely location, most everyone has been here since it was built 20 years ago. Our unit was purchased from the original owner, who I will call Tim, who had been the homeowners association president, and a friend of the lady downstairs, who I will call Barbara. She came upstairs to welcome us with a mention that Tim was always happy to help her out. Now, I knew exactly what she meant, but I shut that down immediately. I said to her, well, fortunately, the homeowners association gave us a list of handymen to come and do these things for us. We like to stay off ladders and we aren't very handy at all. When I said this, the smile dropped off her face and she stomped away. The very next day, the complaints started rolling in. She complained that our dryer was too loud, the water sounded like it was leaking through her ceiling, the vibrations were wrecking her peace. So we bought vibration mats, a new dryer, and checked our pipes, which by the way were all completely fine. We even went to Barbara's unit with her present while they were running and could barely hear a thing. But then she started daily complaints to the homeowners association, and when they persisted, we informed them that our entire proper use and enjoyment of our property was compromised by this unwarranted harassment, and if it continued, we would pursue legal remedy. Well, they immediately stopped. I then checked the homeowners association rules, and apparently we can do laundry from 9 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So you can bet that we did laundry every single day. I did laundry for our daughter's family too, and we even invited their small child to come sit on the floor and play drum solos on mixed bowls and pots and pans, all while the washer was churning. Well, lo and behold, Barbara put her unit up for sale, and she finally moved out. Our daughter is now doing her own laundry again, and we're currently hoping for new excellent neighbors because Barbara was definitely not it. Okay, someone pointed this out in the comments section, and I could not agree more, because you know for a fact that Barbara drove Tim out of that property. She probably played the same tactic with him, but instead of her moving out, he decided to bail and say, okay, I'm out of there. If you've never lived in like a condo situation or like an apartment scenario, then please feel blessed, because trust me, having crappy neighbors is a nightmare, especially when they're rude people like Barbara who are like hyper-focused on everything you're doing, all because you refused to help her out one time. Think about it, all it took was you implying that you're probably not going to help her out with stuff she needs, and then at the flip of a switch, she suddenly turns into this nightmare individual. And that is obnoxious, like truly that is not fair for anybody. So good for the original poster for chasing Barbara out of that property. That really is a blessing in disguise, because Barbara sounded like a terrible neighbor, and I don't think anybody would have had a good time dealing with her on a daily basis. Am I overreacting for snapping at my pregnant sister after she demanded that I give her my car permanently, saying that I can use public transportation in the meantime since she apparently needs it way more than I do? Because right now I feel like crap for the way I snap back at her, and I now really just don't know what to do. Here's how it all happened. I want to start off by saying that I'm honestly not sure if I handled this badly or if I'm just being made to feel like I did. For reference, I'm a 26-year-old female, I live alone, and I work full time. I don't earn a huge amount, but I am stable and I'm careful with my money. Last year, I finally bought myself a car after saving for years. And by the way, this was a huge deal for me because growing up, I never really had anything that was just mine. My sister is 32 years old and currently pregnant with her 4th child. She and her husband have always struggled financially and usually rely on my parents to help them out with rent, groceries, bills, and basically everything else. And this has been going on for years. Last week, she called me crying, saying they're about to be evicted. I felt really bad for her and stayed on the phone trying to calm her down. I even looked up like assistant programs and resources that might help them out short term, but then she said that she needed my car. At first, I thought she meant borrowing it sometimes, but she didn't. She meant that I should give it to her permanently because she has kids and I don't, so I don't need it as much. She said I could use public transport or Uber since I only go to work and back, but you know what? I said no. After that, she got really upset. She then started saying that I don't understand real responsibility and that if something happens to her baby because she can't get around, apparently it's gonna be on me, and that really got to me. Shortly after, my parents called me and told me that I should step up since I'm financially stable and family helps out family. My mom even said that I can always get another car later, and that's right about when I finally snapped. I said that her poor planning and her baby are not my responsibility. I know that was harsh, but I felt cornered and emotionally pressured, and now my whole family's angry at me. I feel guilty about how I said it, but I also feel like the request itself was completely unreasonable. I don't know if I overreacted by snapping, or if my reaction was understandable given the situation. So did I overreact in this scenario? Because right now I'm still very upset about this. Okay, first off, no, you didn't overreact because these people have it completely backwards. Because why should you be expected to give up your car for this lady? It's so funny because these people try to sit there and be like, oh, you don't understand what a real responsibility is. Meanwhile, this is coming from the woman who's about to have her 4th kid and clearly doesn't have her life figured out. Her parents are helping pay for her rent and groceries and everything in her life, and she's pointing the finger at you and saying, you don't have your life figured out? Give me your car? Like, dude, what is going on right now? If that's not projection, then I don't know what is, because that is insane. Because here are like the facts about this, especially if I was in your shoes. Not only would I never give my car over to her, like under any circumstances, even just to borrow it, because I guarantee you they never will give it back, but also I would be very hesitant in the future to help them out with anything, because look at their reaction after the fact. They're pissed off saying, oh, you could just get another car, or even saying like, oh, you can use public transportation, or you can get an Uber instead of me. I need a car because I have kids. But it's like, bro, you need a lot more than just a car if you're gonna figure your life out. That's like one of many puzzle pieces that this lady is clearly missing out of the box. Oh, and by the way, if anything does happen to that kid, it is not your fault at all. I can't believe they would say that to you. What a gross and horrifying thing for her to say to you. As if you keeping your car and minding your own business and living your own life is somehow affecting her ability to take care of her child. Like if anything happens to that kid, it's on her 100%. It would be her fault because she's the parent, not you. It's also pretty apparent like your sister is being super manipulative right now. She's trying to act like she has nobody else in her life, no other friends she can talk to, no other family members or like former coworkers she can reach out to and be like, hey, I need help, because she's trying to make it seem like, oh, this is my last option, which is like the classic case of, oh, maybe if I pressure you enough, you'll give in and give me what I want, which is so awful and something that you definitely don't deserve. So with all that in mind, no, I don't think you overreacted at all, because I think your sister is very irresponsible and she has no business having yet another child. My entitled boyfriend literally refuses to use soap anytime he uses the bathroom or when he takes a shower, causing our shared living space to literally start smelling like garbage, all because he refuses to properly clean his body. But anytime I've confronted him about this, he claims that not using soap is a white person thing and that I should be more accepting of his decisions and not be so judgmental. But I'm honestly at a loss because this is disgusting and I simply can't get past the smell, because I truly don't want to live like this and I don't know what else to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I feel ridiculous even asking this, but I honestly don't know if I'm missing something or if I'm being gaslit. Now, to start things off, I'm a black woman and my boyfriend is white. This is the first white man I've ever dated, which is relevant because I keep wondering if I'm misunderstanding something cultural. My boyfriend does not regularly use soap when he showers. He says he rinses with water and that soap is optional unless you're visibly dirty. He will sometimes use shampoo, but body soap is inconsistent at best. He also doesn't always use soap when washing his hands in the bathroom and says that hot water is enough. When I brought this up, he told me that I'm overreacting and that this is a white person thing and that I'm judging him through my own cultural lens. He said growing up his family didn't obsess over soap the way that mine did and that my expectations are based on how I was raised, not on what's medically necessary. He said that different ethnic groups get dirtier at different rates, so he does not need soap as often as I do. And this really threw me off. In my family and community, soap is not optional. You shower daily, you use soap, you wash your hands properly, you use a bar of soap to wash your butt. It's basic hygiene. I've never had to explain this to an adult partner before. The problem is that it affects shared spaces. Our towels smell bad, our sheets will smell faster than they should. I even question his bathroom and backdoor hygiene because sometimes even when we're close to each other, he smells really bad. He insists that I'm imagining it because according to him, black people are too uptight about using soap all the time and using washcloths. And he even makes fun of me for using a washcloth. I've had to rewash laundry because things just don't feel clean. And I feel uncomfortable inviting people over because I'm worried that the house smells off, even if he insists that I'm imagining it. When I push back, he says that I'm being judgmental and culturally insensitive, and that I need to stop projecting my standards onto him. He says that if I really understood him, I would realize this is normal where he comes from, and that I'm making it into a bigger issue than it needs to be. And now I'm stuck questioning myself. Is this actually a cultural difference that I should be more open-minded about, or is this just bad hygiene being dressed up as something deeper? I don't want to be unfair or ignorant, but I also don't want to live like this. I feel like his bad hygiene is negatively impacting my life, and I don't have any white female friends to ask about this. So am I overreacting by being bothered by this? Or is it reasonable to expect that soap is a non-negotiable in a shared home? What should I do? Oh my gosh, this guy's gaslighting you. This is not like a white person thing. This is more like a narcissist thing. Like, this guy's an idiot. You mean to tell me that this guy never uses soap, like, at all? Whether he's using the bathroom or taking a shower? Like, I don't know about you, but either this guy has the greatest immune system known to man, or he is sick all the time, because his hands are never clean, which also means that if you share any food with him, or if he makes you food or anything like that, chances are you're gonna be the one that gets sick. And that is absolutely disgusting. Like, there's no good excuse for this. And the fact that this guy's trying to be like, oh, this is a white person thing, it's cultural. It's like, bro, this is not cultural. This is you being a disgusting pig, gaslighting your girlfriend into being like, oh, you just have to deal with that. If you really understood me, you wouldn't be pushing for me to change. But it's like, I'm sorry, I can't get past the fact that you smell like actual crap. Like, I don't even know how to talk to you right now. I literally want to get out of the room. Because it's pretty obvious this guy is used to the smell, and he doesn't realize that, yeah, he smells like garbage. Like gross, sweaty, crappy garbage. And that is so gross, dude. Like, my God, dude, that gives me a shiver up my spine. I would never want to live like that. So in my opinion, I think the original poster here is absolutely being gaslit, because nothing in this situation is anything that you would call normal. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by going hiking on a first date, resulting in one of the longest and most awkward situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's what happened. So this happened actually on New Year's Eve, and honestly, it was kind of a fitting end to the year. So I matched with this beautiful woman on one of the apps, and somehow convinced her to come on a hike with me and my dog. Now, my dog is adorable. She will draw you right in with her big brown eyes and cute little eyebrows, but she also has an endless motor. She doesn't get tired and gets upset if we don't walk fast enough. And trust me, this is some serious foreshadowing. Now, the first mistake was deciding to meet in a nearby county park to avoid the fees. The second mistake was deciding to go down a 40-foot grade 3, maybe even grade 4 leafy hillside where she slid down 90% of it on her butt within like the first 20 minutes. We found out on the way back that we missed a small left turn about 50 yards before the hillside. We then spent the next 30 minutes engaging in a decent conversation, and I noticed that she's not asking me a ton of questions in return, but I just obviously chalk it up to her being nervous. Like I'm a total idiot. Now, the third mistake was bringing my dog. She is adorable, but she can be an absolute hellhound. We weren't going fast enough for her liking, as I kept the pace slower than normal so I don't leave this poor girl behind in the woods. The dog even starts barking nonstop for what feels like an hour. Now, it wasn't, maybe like 10 minutes, but holy crap. Holding any kind of conversation with a pissed off 70-pound spoiled queen on the end of the leash was really painful. The fourth mistake, because why would you learn from your first, was to avoid paying to walk back into the park. We went back off trail down another leafy hillside to a trail, and I asked her like 5 times if she wanted to, and she said it was fine. It wasn't as steep as the first one, but she slid down on her butt again for most of it. Oh, and she may have had an accident at this park in the past. Well, she said she just wanted to be friends when I asked for a second date, and eventually unmatched with me on the application. And with all things considered, I honestly cannot blame her for a second. Oh man, that's probably like the ultimate way of figuring out if you want to date someone or not. Just go on a hike in the woods, it's fine. If she can get past sliding down a hill on her butt twice in like one hike, then congratulations, she is the one. But if not, she's probably normal and she's probably like, oh my God, what kind of date have I signed up for? Because yeah, this is kind of a mess up, but it's also really funny. And I think if I was in the lady's shoes, I would probably not want to match up with you again because that is definitely not a good first impression. My friend has not heard from her boyfriend for over 5 months, and now the way she's acting is starting to affect her relationship with me and the other people in our group. And at this point, I'm really just not sure how to help her out. Here's the situation. Okay, so my friend and her boyfriend have been together for about 2 years, but recently he has stopped talking to her for apparently no reason. The last time my friend texted her boyfriend was about 5 months ago. She texted him about 6 times over the course of a few days, and he answered none of them. She has tried calling a few times, but she gets hit with his voicemail. And after all this time, she expects him to text or at least call him back. Well, I've told her countless times that this is not normal for a boyfriend to do, and that she should not be putting up with it for this long. Now, she doesn't get mad at me for bringing it up, but she does tell me, don't be so hard on him. He's just going through something. Well, my friend's anxiety has since gotten worse because of this, since she blames herself for him not texting. Ever since I've known her, she's done the same thing for other relationships or friendships where she will blame herself for someone else's actions. But this is the worst that I've ever seen yet. Our friend group is relatively close. Every time we all hang out together, she spends spends the whole time talking about her boyfriend. She asks over and over again what she could have possibly have done to upset him, even though we all tell her that this relationship is going nowhere and that we are all worried for her, but nothing we say actually gets through to her. I've even suggested that she talks to a therapist for her anxiety, but she does not want to. I think she's worried that a therapist will tell her to break up with her boyfriend, but she does not want to let go of the relationship because it's her first boyfriend. I honestly can't believe that it's gone on for this long. I feel like a horrible friend for knowing that this is happening, but she won't listen to my advice. I can't talk to her boyfriend about it or ask him what in the world he thinks he's doing because I've only met him once last year and he lives really far from me. So put yourself in my shoes. How do I even begin to approach this? I love my friend and I want her to be happy in any relationship she chooses, but this is definitely not good for her and I simply don't know how to help her. Okay, if your friend can't see that she doesn't have a boyfriend anymore, then I don't know if anyone's gonna get through to her. Because after 5 months of not responding to her, that's him ghosting the relationship and going to probably anybody else, which is awful. That really is a terrible way of breaking up, but maybe explaining to her that, yeah, this is him breaking up with you and you need to move on might be like the best thing for her to hear, because then it takes the pressure off of her. She doesn't have to be expected to like break up with him or figure anything out, because guess what? He's already done that to her. And yeah, this is gonna suck. I mean, it is her first relationship and she clearly wants to hold on to it, but dude, there's nothing to hold on to. If he's willing to ghost you for 5 months, then holy crap, he was not loyal and he did not care. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would tell her the truth and be like, dude, you gotta let it go, because this guy has shown a clear sign that he doesn't actually care about this lady, and he's obviously breaking up without actually confronting the situation itself, which really sucks, but at least it's something she can try to accept and move on from, because holding on to something that isn't there, in my opinion, is only gonna cause her harm. An entitled Karen bumps into me with her shopping cart, causing her to freak out in a way that honestly was completely overblown. Because not only does she deny any responsibility for hitting me, she also tried to claim that it was the other way around, saying that I'm the one that hit her and that apparently I need to apologize. Here's what happened. Okay, for reference, this happened a few weeks ago and I'm from Australia. I'm at the dip section of my local Colesworth supermarket and there are two middle-aged women just a couple of steps to my right. They are being somewhat obnoxious in positioning themselves, so they're hard to get around. And they're having this moment where they're like, oh, I haven't seen you in such a long time. But they're also not really stopping me, so I pay them no mind. I then step into the fridge to get a better look at the dips. One woman has a trolley, which would have been in my way, but she sees where I'm wanting to be and amazingly enough moves it, all of about 3 inches though. So I end up with virtually no gap between it and my hip. But it's the lead up before Christmas and I'm just trying to be calm about the entire thing. Also, importantly, the trolley ends up aimed directly at me. I pick out one dip and I start looking for a second one, and suddenly the woman's trolley hits me. Now it knocks into me gently, I mean there wouldn't be a bruise, because it was all of like 3 inches away, but on sheer reflex I bat it away with my hand. I do this all, by the way, at the force of like patting a cat, so the trolley moves back maybe 2 inches. Then what happens next comes into focus, because the Karen actually pushed her trolley straight into me. Now I'm incredibly surprised, so I turn to her expecting her to apologize, but of course not. She looks at me and says, "You hit me with that." And I'm thinking to myself, what? I say to her, "No, you pushed into me." She then says back, "You had already gotten what you wanted. I thought you were moving." But I answered back by saying, "Well, I didn't move, did I? So you pushed your trolley into me." And here, my voice is increasing in volume because this is some garbage. No one was hurt. The trolley had moved back gently 3 inches forward and back. But my God, she pushed it into me and thought I was to blame. The Karen's acquaintance is looking horrified at being caught in the middle of this and makes some attempt to calm us both down. But I'm not having it, and neither is this Karen. I mean, we've had a trolley pushed into us for God's sakes. We have a few more rounds of how each of us came to be pushing the trolley, but she won't show any scrap of remorse for pushing it into me and wants me to apologize for pushing it back into her. But it's like, screw you, Karen. If it hadn't hit me because of you pushing it into me, I wouldn't have touched it, you cow. This completely eludes the Karen who thinks I'm a horrible person for reflexively pushing back at something that got pushed into me. I think I hear her say something about her husband, and at this point I'm so riled up that I welcome the possibility. So I say to him, "Okay, go ahead, get your husband then." She then looks at me and says, "I don't have a husband." To which I snap back by saying, "Oh, that's not surprising." And yeah, this isn't my proudest moment, but I feel she deserves it. There's a few more back and forths, but eventually I've had enough. I've got a life I want to get on with. So I break contact and just walk away. But this Karen simply cannot let it go, of course, because she keeps going on and on at the top of her voice to her friend and random passing shoppers, saying, "Oh my God, he hit me with a trolley," all while I continue down other aisles to get the rest of my shopping. In fact, 5 aisles away, an elderly gentleman catches my eye. He lets out a chuckle and says, "She's still going, you know." So all in all, thanks a lot, Karen. I really didn't need this kind of interaction because this was simply exhausting. Okay, reactive personalities like this drive me crazy because she's freaking out over nothing. Literally nothing happened and she's trying to act like, oh my god, you hurt me. You hit me with your trolley on purpose. I can't believe you would do this. And it's like, bro, I didn't do anything to you. You're crazy. You're literally getting upset and pissed off at nothing. Like she almost came into that store kind of like hoping for some kind of negative interaction so that she could yell at someone just by being in the way. It's like, bro, people bump into each other all the time. It is not that big of a deal. Not to mention the fact that this was her fault. You were minding your own business and this lady bumps into you and then tries to act like it's your fault. Like, come on, get a life, bro. That is so weird. So I think the original poster handled this as well as anyone probably could in this situation because that Karen's going to be unhinged pretty much no matter what you say. And it just sucks because you didn't want this and you definitely did not seek it out. Am I the jerk for leaving my boyfriend after he got pissed off that I came home from work and went right to sleep without cleaning up a huge mess that he made in the kitchen? Because now that I've left him, I'm kind of wondering if I made a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my boyfriend is about 2 years older than me. We've been together for a while and I recently found out that I'm pregnant. Things have been rough lately and I finally hit my breaking point. I work in the ER doing 12 to 16 hour shifts. My boyfriend's got a warehouse job doing 40 hours a week, which I know is physically tough, so I've always tried to pull extra weight at home. I cook, I clean, I pack both of our lunches, and he basically just takes the trash out and tries to not leave toothpaste everywhere. The other day, I came home after a brutal shift, and the house was completely trashed. Water bottles and garbage on the floor, milk was left out on the countertop, dishes piled in the sink, and all of this on his day off. He also apparently had people over while I was gone, which I didn't even know about. I found him sleeping in our room like a little baby burrito, and I didn't say anything, so I just showered and I went to sleep in the guest bedroom because I couldn't deal with it. Well, a few hours later, he wakes me up yelling about how lazy I am for just coming home and going to bed. And when he said this, I just completely lost it. I told him if he wanted the house clean, he should have cleaned up his own mess and that I'm not his maid or his mother. He then said it's my duty as the woman of the house to keep things clean and that he wished I was more like his mom because she did her job. Well, I told him that if he wants me to act like his mom, then he needs to act like his dad and actually provide. I said I'm the one paying most of the bills. I'm cooking every single meal. I'm cleaning everything, all while I'm pregnant too, by the way. I told him we're not even married and he's expecting me to play wife while he acts like a teenager. And that's when he said something that absolutely devastated me. He said, "This is why I haven't asked you to marry me." I then told him that if he was never planning to marry me, then we should just end it and stop wasting my time. I then packed my stuff up, I left, and I blocked him on everything. I also turned off all the location sharing stuff too. So am I the jerk in this scenario? Because I don't know what else to do. Okay, your boyfriend is super lazy. I'm just gonna say that first and foremost. You mean to tell me on his day off, while you're working your butt off and working in the emergency room, which by the way is an exhausting job and it is so difficult, he not only had friends over, but he also was too lazy to clean up after himself? Like, are you kidding me right now? And on top of that, he wakes you up and says, wow, why didn't you clean the kitchen? Never mind the fact that you've worked a 12 to 16 hour shift. Like, what is this guy's problem? Like, there's no way you're the jerk. This guy is. Like, holy crap, you're pregnant and you're still working. And this guy's the one who made the mess in the first place, and yet you're the one who's expected to somehow clean up after him? Like, dude, get a life. So no, you're not the jerk. I would have done the same thing if I was in your shoes because he's acting weird and you do not need that in your life. My housemate wants to evict all of us, all because I accidentally left the front door open. Because right now, my roommate is freaking out on me, saying that he needs to rethink our living situation, all because of an honest mistake. And at this point, I really just don't know what else to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I live in one of the two iconic, affluent university towns in the United Kingdom, in a share house with two other people. We'll call them Jay and Adam for the sake of the story. Now, important context here. Before Christmas, Adam forgot to lock the back door one day. This was the first time something like this had happened in over a year that these two have lived together, and it's like, okay, it sucks, but it's an innocent mistake, and a lot of people make it, right? Well, wrong. Jay reacted very badly. He was angry and accusatory, and it went on for days. At some point, I had a chat with Jay, and he was convinced that Adam was either an alcoholic, high on some kind of substance, or has a brain tumor, not simply because it was like a mistake. Well, this morning, as I left for work through the front door, I closed the door behind me as I always do. However, I think the last latch got stuck and didn't lock properly behind me. And for reference, we have one of those Yale auto lock ones on the front door. I was also in way too much of a hurry, so I didn't really double check. Thankfully, nothing was lost or damaged. But Jay found the door open shortly after when he woke up and texted the group chat. I felt really bad because I know it affected him a lot the last time, and I apologized several times. And I said I'll make sure to double check it from now on, but he went off. He kept saying, "Oh, this is insane," that my reaction and explanation is not acceptable, that he doesn't believe it was an accident, that he works with sensitive government information, and I've put him in a bad position, all while asking me what I can do so he believes that it'll never happen again. At some point, he says that we need to start rethinking the house share, and for reference, we're all sharing the rent, meaning that if we break the lease, everybody's gotta leave. Now, I kept apologizing and apologizing, trying to explain it really was an accident, that I didn't mean to leave the door open, the lock didn't lock properly, assuring that I will always double check it from now on. But nothing was good enough for him. He seems to think that I left it open on purpose, and I just don't know how else to explain that I also have valuables in the house, and I also don't want to leave the door open like it was an accident. I know it's still my responsibility, and I really am sorry, but would I be the jerk if I tell him he's overreacting? It's currently 10:30 at night where I'm at, and I'm still hanging out at the office because I'm genuinely kind of uncomfortable to go home. What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, no, you're not the jerk because this is an insane reaction. If he's really got some kind of like government information that's really sensitive, then that's his responsibility to take care of it and not yours. He should have that under lock and key in a separate room. We're talking locked away in a safe, bro. Like, what are you doing? Any kind of documents or files or programs, like, dude, you better have that under lock and key, because if you're literally trying to take care of sensitive government information, all relying on a Yale auto lock, then my God, either your government is trusting the wrong people with sensitive information, or this guy is a complete moron, and he's using that as an excuse for his OCD tendencies. And I'm willing to guess it's probably the second option. So no, you didn't do anything wrong, and you're definitely not the jerk. But if I was in your shoes, I would probably start looking for another place to live regardless, because living with someone who acts like that is honestly just a little crazy, and that is not something I would ever want to deal with. Am I the jerk for leaving my friend at the concert after he kept testing my boundaries all night? Because right now I feel like I made things weird by leaving all of a sudden, and I'm really just not sure if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, so last weekend I went to a concert with my friend who I will call Mark. We bought tickets months ago, and I was genuinely excited because I don't go out much anymore. Mark has been in this phase where he thinks he's hilarious if he pushes things just a little bit too far, like saying something rude and then smiling like you're supposed to laugh. Now I figured whatever, I can handle an annoying joke for a couple of hours, but the night turned into this huge thing. First, he kept borrowing my stuff without asking, like my portable charger and even my card when we were buying drinks, and then acting offended when I asked for it back. Then he started trying to start conversations with random people by making me the punchline, like telling strangers I'm super uptight and that I need to be dragged out, which is not even true. I just don't like being talked about like I'm not standing there. I told him quietly twice, please stop doing that, but he said that I was just being sensitive, and that I should just loosen up because everyone is in a good mood. Later on, we got closer to the front and it was crowded, and he kept shoving forward using my shoulder as leverage, like physically pushing me into people so he could squeeze through. People started giving me dirty looks and I felt mortified. I told him again, stop pushing me, I'm not doing this. But he laughed and said, oh, relax, it's a concert, not a library. Well, the final straw was when he spilled a drink down someone's back. It was an accident, but he didn't apologize. And when the guy turned around annoyed, Mark goes, oh, my friend did it, she's clumsy. And I swear my stomach dropped. I said, no, I did not. And I apologized to the guy myself. Mark then got mad at me for making it weird and said it was embarrassing him. At that point, I was done. I told him that I'm leaving and I'm going back to where there's space. And if he wants to keep acting like that, then he can enjoy the show alone. He then said that I was bluffing and followed me for a bit, still making little comments like, oh, someone woke up angry. Okay, mom, whatever. But I just turned around and I said, I'm going home. You can get your own ride. And then I just walked out. So I took a rideshare and I went home. And now he's telling people I abandoned him and that I ruined the night over jokes. I feel guilty because technically we came together, but I also feel like I gave him multiple chances and he just kept choosing to be a jerk and pin it on me. So am I at fault here? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. Okay, I need to say first and foremost, this guy is not your friend. He is a complete jerk and he used you as a prop to essentially make fun of you and make you look bad. And that is not okay. Like, that is not funny. It's humiliating, it's disgusting, and very disturbing. Especially the part where he's basically using you as a battering ram to get to the front of the concert. Like, bro, what is going on right now? You can't just touch people like that. That's weird. So no, you did the right thing because Mark was acting incredibly weird. My entitled brother claims that any money I've made from my business also belongs to him, as he's demanding that I hand over half of my business earnings over to him, all because he says that without him, I would not have gotten this far. And now as a result of this, my immediate family has basically turned on me. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my brother and I have never really been that close from the very beginning, mainly due to favoritism. On top of that, I'm basically the unwanted middle child, with a younger sister who's just a few years younger than me. Now, we have farmlands, but the farm itself was not really that big, and the yield of the farm is comparatively very low, not enough for our family. So when my mom got an opportunity to send one of her sons to a foreign land to work, she decided to send me instead because she wanted her favorite child to be with her, my brother. Even though I got married recently and leaving for work means leaving my wife here at the village because the pay and working conditions were not good enough, I also am expected to send money home to my family. I left for work and I worked for like 5 years with only maybe 2 home visits a year. It was a tough time for my wife and my kid. I also had to miss the birth of my child because of this, but I never regretted that because I always used to think that the struggle I'm doing right now will make the future for my children that much brighter. In those 5 years, I gained a lot of exposure and decided to start something of my own, and for this, I had to sell off my half of the shared land. Now, my family, namely my mother, my brother, and my sister, were not so happy about it, as they thought I'm doing something very stupid. They didn't support any of this, but I still did it, and it turns out to be the best thing that I've ever done in my life. My business made a good chunk of money. Then I finally decided to move my wife and my kid out of the village and settle in the city where I purchased a new home. Everything was going well for me until my mom, my brother, and my sister demanded that whatever fortune I made should be divided equally between me and my brother. Their reasoning for this is that I only get to work outside and get the exposure for my business because my brother took care of my family at the village. And if it wasn't for my brother, I would have never been able to get out of the village. So apparently, whatever success I got after moving out of the village was not only my own, but a shared success with my brother, and because of that, he should get half of it. But my reasoning is that I never chose to go. I was forced to because I wanted to stay, and we didn't have enough for all of us. Whatever time I was working outside, I was sending money home regularly. So it's not that he's taking care of my family for free, he's basically getting paid for it. Also, when I was doing my thing, my brother used to work on my share of the land also, so any money generated from it went to him and not to my wife. I would also like to mention that if I choose someone else to work on my land, then I would have gotten like a much higher amount than the amount my brother was telling me he was generating from my share of the land. But guess what? I didn't, because deep down I also wanted him to be present for my family, even though that means sacrificing some money. My extended family and my community are also supporting my brother's claims, and everyone except for my family and my wife's family are against me, calling me a jerk for not giving half of my fortune to my brother. So seriously, am I at fault here? Do I owe my brother half of my success, all because he was supposedly there for my family? Because right now I'm very pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Okay, it sounds like you come from somewhere outside of the United States, or at least a culture that's very different from my own. I just don't recognize where you're from, so forgive me if I get some details wrong here. But from my perspective, and trust me, I have a very limited scope of what you're going through, I do not think you would be the jerk if you kept your money and moved your family out. In my opinion, any success this business has achieved is something that you've done and has absolutely nothing to do with your brother. Like, their claim over your money is such a stretch it's not even funny. They literally sent you away from your village so that you could work and send back money instead of your older brother, who in my opinion probably should have gone before you. And here's the thing, I really am convinced that if the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't give you a single penny of the money that guy made. If your brother went out there and said like, hey, I'm gonna sell my part of the land and like make a business of some kind, and then made like a life-changing amount of money to move him and his family out of the village, you can bet if you asked for any of that, he would say, no, I made it myself, I'm not giving you any of it. I can't believe you'd be so selfish. You need to make your own future. I can't believe you. Like, I can absolutely see that happening. These people sound so selfish and so incredibly entitled. So no, you are not the jerk for deciding to keep that money for yourself. You literally missed years of your kid's life and was only able to visit home like twice a year. Like, that sounds miserable. I would hate that so much. And the fact that your brother and your family is trying to stake a claim over your hard work, especially after the clear favoritism they've expressed towards your brother, is absolutely insane and completely uncalled for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for changing the lock on my bedroom in a shared apartment after I discovered that my roommate was absolutely going into my room without my permission? Because after she screamed at me and said that I need to move out, I decided that enough was enough, as I issued a complaint against her in a way that shut her down completely. But now I'm kind of wondering if I took things too far, because at this point I don't really know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been sharing an apartment with another woman for about 3 months now. We didn't know each other well before moving in, but we had a mutual friend. In fact, she actually asked me to move in because her previous roommate was leaving, and at the time I was really struggling to find a place. I had checked a lot of rooms, but either they were way too expensive or they just didn't feel right. When she offered, I went to see the apartment and I agreed pretty quickly. At the beginning, she was very nice, and honestly, I felt grateful because she helped me when I needed a place. And because of that, I ignored a lot of small things. She would come into my room without asking, she would lie on my bed, walk around the apartment barefoot, and then sit on my bed with the same feet. She also helped herself to my snacks and used my things. A couple of times I tried to say it lightly, like joking that I can't sleep if someone sits on my bed, but she would just laugh it off and keep doing it. Over time, it started bothering me more. I wasn't trying to fight, so I avoided being harsh, but I began locking my room whenever I left the apartment. She didn't say anything about it, but when I came back sometimes, I had this strong feeling that someone had been in my room. I finally asked her directly if she had a key to my room, and she got defensive and said that I was being paranoid and imagining things, so I just dropped it. A few weeks later, when she went out with friends, I asked a friend of mine who does this kind of thing to change the lock on my bedroom door. I just wanted to feel safe in my own space. Well, a few days later, while I was at work, she started sending me angry messages saying, "Oh, why'd you change the lock without my permission?" saying that I disrespected her and that building staff had questioned her about it. When I got home, she immediately started yelling, saying that she never should have let me move in and that I had no right to make changes. I then calmly told her that it's my room and I changed the lock because I didn't feel safe. She then said that she had talked to management and that I have to move out. Well, that didn't really sit right with me, so the next day I went to the building office myself, and it's here that the staff told me that she already had complaints against her from previous roommates, including bullying and theft. They also confirmed that yeah, I was allowed to change the lock on my private room and that I had not broken any rules. After that, I officially filed a complaint against her, and the very next day she was issued a notice. Since then, she hasn't really said much to me directly, but the atmosphere in the apartment is very tense. This place really works for me in terms of price and location, so despite the tension, I feel safer and more at peace now that my boundaries are protected. But seriously, with all things considered, am I being a jerk to my roommate for the things I had to do to protect myself? Because honestly, I really just need to know. Okay, first and foremost, no, you are not the jerk. This lady clearly is like not a good roommate, and I think your suspicions about her were spot on. For starters, yeah, she absolutely has been going through your stuff all the time, even when you're not at home, and she's probably stolen from you and you just don't know it yet. Like, I'm willing to bet she's probably rifled through your stuff more than one time and done who knows what to your place. And that's really messed up, like that would drive me insane. I'm a very private person and I like my own private space. So even the idea of someone coming into my room while I'm not there and just going through my stuff, oh man, that would piss me off. So no, you did the right thing because clearly this put her in her place. This set some serious boundaries that I'm sure she's not going to cross again, because I promise you, she probably doesn't want to get in trouble with the front staff ever again. Am I the jerk for not picking up my sister's kids from school, as I literally didn't have enough room in the car? Plus, these kids only have to walk a mile to my parents' house just to get where they need to go. Because right now, my sister says I have a grudge against her, and honestly, this is all so exhausting, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my sister has 3 kids. The oldest lives with my parents and has their entire life. Meanwhile, the youngest 2 live with my sister. I also have 2 kids of my own, and our town does not have any bus transportation for kids that live in town or out of the district limits. At the beginning of Christmas break, my sister's car broke down. My dad drove it to a shop where it's been sitting ever since, and the day it broke down, my sister was given my dad's vehicle to borrow. My parents have 2 vehicles and my dad is retired, so for the length of Christmas break, it wasn't a huge issue. My mom works 7 out of every 14 days, 3 days one week, 4 days the next. I told my dad before New Year's Eve that if my sister still didn't have a car by the time school started, she would have to figure out transportation for the kids that live with her for the days that mom works. My husband and I share a vehicle, and he leaves for work immediately after I get home from picking up our kids. We live right down the road from my parents, so picking up and dropping off the child that lives with them isn't a big deal. My sister lives in a different city and pays public transit to bring her kids to the schools in our town every day, but she doesn't have them take public transportation home, and at least once a week relies on my father to pick up her kids and take them home. But today came the day I knew was coming. My mom has to work, my dad has no vehicle, and my sister's middle kid needed a ride home from school. My sister's youngest is at the dad's today, so that's covered, but my sister also never figured out transportation for the middle child. My car cannot safely fit 3 across in the back seat with car seats and booster seats, so the only kid I have room to pick up is the one that lives with my parents. I don't have time to make multiple trips to the schools before my husband leaves for work, and I will not transport more kids than is safe to do. Roads and sidewalks are clear of snow, it's above freezing, and the walk from the school to my parents' house is less than a mile. They've walked to my parents' house from school before, so it's not new to them. So I told my parents and my sister that she will have to walk home, which is what I said well before we even got here. And now I'm being told my husband can leave late for work and that I have a grudge against my sister. So apparently I'm refusing to help her and taking it out on her child. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because this seems a little ridiculous and I just don't know what else to do. Okay, honestly, it is not on you to figure out where this kid goes. This is absolutely up to your sister, and that is that. Like, why in the world are you somehow responsible for whether or not this kid can walk to your parents' house? Which, by the way, they've walked this route before. It's not that big of a deal. From the sounds of it, it seems like this is a safe area, so it's like, okay, what's actually happening right now? The original poster has no reason to be demonized in this scenario. Plus, if I didn't have enough room to like take a kid with me, and they are fully capable of like walking back to the house, then congratulations, you're gonna walk back to the house while I literally get everybody else back home where they should be. It's not a big deal, like they've done it before, so why are we blowing this out of proportion? Like, that just seems so weird to me. So no, you're not the jerk. I think your sister's being over dramatic because you literally haven't done anything wrong. Am I the jerk for snapping at my girlfriend after she kept waking me up every single morning? Because right now she's saying that I'm selfish for wanting to sleep in, despite the fact that I've worked so many night shifts and I'm just exhausted. And at this point, I really don't know what else to do. Here's what's happening. So my girlfriend and I have been living together for a couple of years. She has this habit of waking me up whenever she gets up, even if I don't have anywhere to be. And honestly, it drives me insane. I work nights, so my sleep schedule is already messed up. It takes me forever to fall asleep, and I wake up at every little noise. And she knows this. When she's sleeping, I go out of my way to be quiet. I don't turn on lights, I don't make noise. I let her rest because I know how important sleep is. But she doesn't do the same for me. If she's up, she's gonna make sure that I'm up too. She says it's because she wants to spend time together, but then she'll hang out with her friends or be on her phone for hours, so that doesn't add up. But this week especially has been rough. I picked up extra shifts and I've barely slept. Yesterday, I finally had a day off and I was looking forward to catching up on rest. Well, she got up early and decided to vacuum the bedroom. When I asked why she couldn't wait, she said she wanted to get chores done and that I was being dramatic. I then told her I don't understand why she can't just let me sleep, that it is exhausting never knowing if I'll actually get to rest. She then got defensive with me and said, well, normal couples want to wake up together, saying that I'm weird for wanting to sleep in. But the thing is, I never wake her up, like ever. If I get home late from work, I sneak in like a ghost. If she's napping, I leave her alone. I just want the same consideration. She said I was being unfair, so honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I don't know what else to do. Okay, I need to say this first and foremost. Your girlfriend is mistreating you on purpose. She's waking you up on purpose. This is something she's choosing to do, and she's being a massive jerk literally for no reason. Think about it for a second. She knows you work late. She knows you're on the night shift, and yet still she's trying to be like, oh, let's wake up together. I want you to be awake so we can spend time together. But then guess what? That time together never happens. She's always off on her phone. She's always off doing anything else besides spending time with you. And my God, she literally went in there and was like, oh, I'm gonna vacuum the bedroom, even though she knew for a fact that you took up extra shifts. Like, you're running on no sleep and she wants to do this now? Like, that is obnoxious and not okay. And I can confidently say, in my opinion, like from my perspective, if I had a partner who was doing this, I would leave her. I would never stick that out. I would never want to be with someone like that because that is selfish, disgusting, and very rude. And you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for supposedly not warning my diabetic friend about our trip into the city? Because halfway through it, she tried to claim that I was possibly leaving her defenseless, as she felt out of control with her low blood sugar, despite the fact that I described the trip perfectly and I checked in with her all the time. Here's what happened. My friend, my sister, and I went out to a major city near us for my birthday, where yes, there are buses and the subway, but usually it's still better to walk if it's not across the city. I invited this friend to a free trip to a museum and explicitly told her that we would be leaving our town at about 9:30, arriving in the city at 11, leaving at 5:30, and then getting home by 7. At the beginning of the day, I made sure to tell her that I have some extra snacks just in case she needs to fix her blood sugars with both fast and long-acting carbs. She also has some trouble with a leg injury, but my sister has a pretty bad one that flares up and I have a minor one, so I figured that she would be comfortable telling us if she needed to stop. We finished the museum with about 2 hours to spare, so my sister and I say that we should walk around the city since of course there's some cool stuff nearby. Now she doesn't protest and had been sitting down for a bit previously because she was bored of the exhibits we were in. So we end up walking and taking the subway around, and every time we're near a mall or even as we're like walking around, we're checking in with her. We're seeing if she needs food and we buy her a smoothie and a bagel. Though that isn't because she says she needs food, it's more because my sister wanted to stop at both places. She's also had headphones on all day, so we haven't known anything about if she's having any kind of like blood sugar problems. Well, basically she's pissed at me because I supposedly didn't warn her that we would be walking around so much and had not adequately warned her so she could prepare about the change of plans. But like I argue back that we literally made the plans of walking around for a bit right in front of her and that she could have said something, as well as the fact that even if we hadn't gone around the city, we literally said we are going to be walking around a museum for like 5 hours, not including travel time. This combined with the fact that she never said anything about having a problem or having low blood sugar, despite us being aware of it and actively checking in to make sure she was doing okay and had what she needed. She then said that whenever we offered her stuff, she wasn't having issues, but it was when we were away from food places that yeah, she was having low blood sugar. But it's like, dude, hello, we're in a big city. We could walk 1 block and find food so fast. So anyways, am I the jerk for not properly warning my friend about this trip, as well as the possibility of leaving her defenseless in her words? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, this is absolutely not your problem. This is a grown adult we're talking about, right? Like this is a fully functioning person that should be able to take care of themselves, right? Because I'm willing to bet if you have diabetes, then you've probably got a backup plan for just about everything. Like I know people who have all the equipment they need necessary, as well as numerous backup strategies just to make sure that they're taken care of during some kind of outing. So for this lady to be like, oh, you didn't give me proper warning. Like, my God, dude, that is so obnoxious and so untrue. If you go back in the story, you could see the original poster detailing out exactly what's going to happen. Like you're literally going to be taking a day trip into the city for this birthday celebration or whatever. So yeah, of course you're going to be walking around a lot. They literally explained that to you and they said, hey, do you need a smoothie? Do you need a bagel? Like what's going on? How's your blood sugar? Are you doing okay? And it's like, dude, why is the person who doesn't have diabetes being more proactive about this than the person who does have it and should be monitoring how they feel? Like, I don't know, this is so backwards. She's placing the responsibility of her diabetes on everybody else around her and trying to be like, oh, this is your fault because I'm not feeling well. When it's like, dude, you should have spoken up and you should have planned better. Like this is absolutely not on the original poster or their sister at all, because holy crap, diabetes is like a life-changing thing. Your whole routine in your day-to-day life goes completely out the window because your life is absolutely going to revolve around this specific thing. So for her to be like, oh, I can't believe you almost left me helpless and defenseless. Like, I don't know, that would be like the last time I would ever take them on a trip because that is obnoxious. You can't possibly place that on my shoulders. That is crazy. So no, you're not the jerk. This is not your fault at all. You gave your friends so many warnings about this trip, it's not even funny. And if they really can't take care of themselves, then they definitely should not go on trips like this, because if they're not happy with the way they were supposedly treated, then that is absolutely on them. Am I the jerk for refusing to switch seats on a long train ride after this Karen tried to use her kid to guilt trip me into moving? Because after the fact, I'm kind of wondering if I made a mistake here and I just don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what happened. Okay, so last week I took a 6-hour train ride to visit my sister. I booked my seat weeks in advance because I get motion sick and I really need a window seat facing forward. About 10 minutes after boarding, a woman, maybe in her mid-40s, comes up to me with a kid that's maybe about 8 years old and asks if I can like switch seats so that they can sit sit together. When she said this, I politely said, sorry, I really can't because of the motion sickness thing. But in response, she just looked annoyed and walked off. Well, about 20 minutes later, she comes back again with a different seat number and says that her kid is anxious and that I should be kind and move. But again, I said no, and I explained the exact same thing. She then sighed loudly and said, wow, okay then. And she said this to the whole row. After that, I could feel people staring at me. One guy even muttered something like, seriously, dude, under his breath. Now, here's the thing. The kid was not crying or panicking or anything like that. He was just playing on a tablet the entire time. But every time the mom walked past, she would look at me like I kicked a puppy. At one point, the conductor asked if everything was okay, and she jumped in saying that I refused to help a child, with the conductor just nodding and moving on. I spent the rest of the ride feeling tense and guilty, even though physically I felt fine because I didn't move. But you know what? Emotionally, it really sucked. When I told my sister, she said that I should have just switched seats to avoid the drama, and now I'm really second-guessing myself. So seriously, I need to know, was I actually the jerk here? Or is it okay to keep the seat that you paid for even if it makes you look bad? What should I do? Okay, dude, this pisses me off because no, you're not the jerk here. That lady is out of her mind for trying to make you switch seats like that. You mean to tell me that her lack of planning is somehow your emergency and you're now expected to give up your seat that you booked weeks in advance? All because this lady couldn't plan properly? Like, what are we talking about right now? Why am I responsible for you not getting your crap together, lady? Like, not to be the bearer of bad news, but this is not my problem. If your kid feels anxious and is having a bad time on the train, sitting in my seat is not going to change anything. Like, how is that at all the solution? Also, to the guy that's like, wow, dude, I can't believe you. Like, seriously? He's saying that all under his breath? Like, oh, okay, buddy, why don't you give up your seat then? Why is he sitting there acting like the original poster is like committing a crime against humanity? Why not step up and be the hero in this story and be like, I'll give you my seat? Like, holy crap, what a hypocrite. This is so weird. And also, if I'm gonna be on a train for 6 hours and I know for a fact I have motion sickness, you better believe I'm gonna stay in that seat. I don't care what's going on, dude. Like, I'm not gonna give that up because chances are that seat probably costs extra money that lady's clearly not willing to pay. So to get to the point, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady was trying to be manipulative by using her kids against you, and that is incredibly unfair and just really stupid, because if she actually cared about her kid, she would have booked a seat well in advance just like you did. An entitled psycho employee says that he's going to sue me, all because he has to pay child support to his 2 exes and their kids, after he was caught trying to lie about how much money he was making, as he claims that because I answered a court order to basically clarify how much money he made, I somehow betrayed him and made his life worse, which has put me in one of the weirdest and dumbest situations I've ever been in my entire life, because this guy did not have a leg to stand on when we eventually went to court. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was having a discussion yesterday at work between myself and a couple of other managers, and the subject of child support came up. Apparently, he has an employee who went through a bloody, bitter, acrimonious divorce, and he ends up served with a support collection order. I then told him to call our legal department and do what they told him, and then I told him the following story that happened to me. As a manager of generally well-paid employees, I have found myself in court testifying to my employee's income on more than one occasion, but this one was my favorite. It involved an employee who I will call Frank for the sake of the story, because he literally looked like a hot dog with ears. Apparently, Frank's wife took exception to the fact that he had a second family, and his trips to go hunting, fishing, or trapping were actually his going home to his other wife and kids. So the second marriage ends up annulled as it was invalid, with the first one ending up in divorce, obviously, and she ends up with the house, child support, and a small lump sum alimony. And just to clarify, she probably would have been owed much more alimony and for a long time, but she offered to take his half of the house and something like $20,000 up front to waive the long-term spousal support. They both make pretty good money, so she didn't exactly need alimony, and this was cleaner. The second wife is obviously super pissed off and ends up coming for Frank with guns blazing, damages, fraud charges, child support, a huge lawsuit, and so forth. The poor judge who got handed this case to untie ended up deciding that since the second wife believed in good faith that she was married to Frank, she should be paid like she was. He didn't have the legal standing to give her spousal support, but he did have discretion over child support. It may not be fair, but in that state at the time, first children of a married couple got a few more percentage points of child support than they did if the parents weren't married, and subsequent kids got the same percentage regardless of marital status of the parents. So based on this, he calculated child support for the second set of kids on the same formula as the first set of kids. And trust me, Frank's appeals went nowhere except for the lawyer billing him for more time. So he's got 3 with the first wife and 2 with the second wife. It should be noted that had the judge judge not applied this ruling, the subsequent kids with the second wife would only be worth like 5% apiece. So this guy is now paying 57% of his post-tax net worth to his 2 wives and 5 kids. So this genius decides, hey, I'll just take all the overtime they offer me. I'll pay them with my regular 40 hours of pay and just keep the overtime for myself. For what his position was paying at the time, that's still more than like $1,500 a month for the first wife and $1,200 a month for the second. So for 6 months, this works great. He staggers the visitation schedules with a cord, since both exes hate both his and each other's guts. Pickups and drop-offs at school when school was in session, the police station when it wasn't, etc. Now, one of the older kids, I forget which one, mentions to mom that dad picked them up on Friday night, left the oldest in charge of the younger ones, and then went to work all night. Then he came home in the morning, slept for a few hours, then they all went and did a few fun things, and the same thing happened on Saturday and Sunday night. He then came home Monday morning, packed the kids up, dropped them off at their schools, and went home to go to bed. And apparently, this has been pretty standard for a while, and the kids didn't even think it was a big deal. Basically, he was leaving at 9 o'clock at night, the younger kids were in bed, and you just left the teenager in the apartment alone with Netflix and Wi-Fi. Well, the moms put aside their mutual hatred because after all, the enemy of my enemy is absolutely my friend. And so they proceeded to go after Frank for the substantial percentage of the overtime that they absolutely should have been given. And since I had testified in both hearings regarding his income, they had all of my information. I then get handed 2 garnishment orders by the same process server one morning as I'm literally stopping to get gas. I open them up, I read them, and then I call my lawyer. And my lawyer tells me to hand them to our legal department as I don't actually cut their paychecks and they should be the ones to handle it. So legal sends a courier, picks up the orders, and then leaves. 2 days later, they tell me that they'll be handling the response and that I should direct any further correspondence in the matter over to them. I don't hear a thing for about 2 months. And then one Monday morning, Frank comes boiling into my office, red face and steam shooting out of his ears. At this point, he's demanding a list of all of my assets because he's going to be suing me for everything I've got and then some for apparently ruining his life and destroying his relationship with his kids, as well as anything else he can think of. This guy's actually in my office demanding personal information right there on the spot, you know, for complying with a court order, or he's going to be calling his lawyer right then and he'll somehow make me give in to him. He is so tremendously upset that he's getting to experience the consequences of his own actions that he even offers to take me outside so we can settle this like men. And I'm not gonna lie, I really did think about it for a second. Now, there was a time I could handle myself in a fight, and I can probably give more than a few people a surprise even now, but it's been a day or two since I didn't have gray hair in my beard. I probably got 50 pounds on Frank, and I throw heavy things in my spare time, but he is like 10 years younger than me, swings hammers for a living, is made from solid muscle and whipcord, and has a couple inches in reach on me. If he gets in a couple of good shots, I could be in trouble. So instead, I walk around behind my desk and I take a seat, watching him foam at the mouth. I collect my thoughts and I give him an answer that he wasn't expecting. I said to him, Frank, I'm sure you'll get all of that in discovery when you file that lawsuit. That is, if you can even find a lawyer to even take that case. I'll excuse this unprofessional behavior and blatant insubordination as you are plainly agitated. Now, I'll thank you to get out of my office before I have you removed. And as you can probably imagine, the temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees with that last sentence. He fumed for a few seconds before going outside to scream and punch at trees. Now, as it turns out, the combined legal powers of the wives' lawyers had basically subpoenaed his payroll records and calculated to the last penny exactly how much more he owed. And when Frank had basically ignored the summons, the judge promptly lowered the boom on Frank. Well, sure enough, Frank filed that lawsuit. Slander, libel, unlawful disclosure, HIPAA violations, even though I'm still trying to figure that one out, and some other nonsense that I've forgotten. My lawyer responded that not only is truth an absolute defense against slander and libel, but disclosure claims vanish very quickly in the presence of 2 facts. Number 1, there was a very valid subpoena, and secondly, I didn't disclose anything. The lawyer then backed right off, and I paid my lawyer for the letter, and to this day, Frank hasn't spoken another word to me. He will still tell everybody how badly I screwed him over though, even though this entire situation is not my fault. Holy crap, imagine being that crappy of a father that you go to your boss and say, I'm gonna sue you all because I owe child support. Like, brother, you had 2 families. You literally had 2 wives in secret. Like, what are you talking about, bro? This is nobody's fault except for yours. Like, you literally did this to yourself and you're trying to be like, oh wow, the original poster's gonna get it. I'm gonna sue you for everything. Like, you really should have been honest about everything you were doing. Instead, you decided to act like an idiot and now here you are. So yeah, this is a crazy situation and I can't imagine being in this scenario. If you like Am I the Jerk, work, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled grandma rents a bike for her injured granddaughter and then asks for a refund nearly like 10 minutes later, all because her granddaughter couldn't ride the bike, which made sense because she had a cast on, leaving me in a situation that was incredibly annoying to deal with. Here's what happened. Okay, so this summer I worked at a vehicle rental place in a tourist town, and for a bit of background information, we offer two products, regular bikes and Surreys, which are these pedal-powered carriage type things. Basically, they have a 1 to 2 bench type seats, each sits like 3 people, and each seat has 2 sets of pedals. I have a couple of stories about weird complaints I've received, but this one is definitely the most confusing. And I guess for a bit of extra background, we don't give refunds. It's written on the sign. We're trained to try and provide substitutions and other solutions if there are any problems with the bikes or something like that. We do very occasionally give refunds on purchases made with a card, but it takes a while, and the manager is the only person who has the ability to do so, and we cannot refund cash purchases. Now on with the story. One day I was on my shift, and it was a pretty slow day, so I was just sitting reading my book and waiting for any customers. This woman then comes up with her 2 granddaughters and rents 2 bikes, paying in cash. The shack we sit in makes it so we can't see below the counter very easily, and honestly, why would we need to, right? Since I don't make a habit of looking at customers' feet, I didn't notice that one of the girls was wearing a cast on her foot. So I just give them helmets, I show them the bikes, and I sit back down as they ride away. Well, about 5 minutes later, they return, and the grandmother just tells me, "Oh, she can't ride this," and gives me an expectant look as if I can fix this problem. I then explain that we can't give refunds, especially on cash purchases. Then I go into problem-solving mode. Now, luckily, it was slow that day, so I had time to deal with this. I then offer one of our Surreys, so only 2 of them have to pedal and the girl with a cast can sit in the middle. The lady then explains that she has a back problem, so she can't pedal either, and at this point, I don't know what she wants. I've done what I can do, and I told her as such. I'm apologizing and repeating that there's nothing I can do, but she is simply not letting up. She just keeps repeating how disappointed she is about this, and her granddaughter just seems bored. I then mentioned that only my manager can do refunds, and it's only for purchases on cards. Well, she latches onto this and asked me to call my manager. I told her I could message my manager, but that she might not respond very quickly because she has a second job that she's working at the moment. She was also very surprised that an establishment that is in a restaurant parking lot with a wooden shack and 1 teenage employee working did not have a manager constantly on call or working. Now, I know this probably wasn't the most mature thing to do, but I was exhausted, and I was only about halfway through my shift. I then got her to write her contact information on a sticky note and that we would get back to her about it as soon as we can. I then shot my manager a message about it and sent the information over, but I admitted that I know there's really nothing we can do and I just needed her off my back. Honestly, I was mostly just confused afterwards. I then finished my shift with only a few more customers who were all very normal and polite, but thankfully that lady never got her call back. Okay, I honestly am very baffled like this, just like the original poster. If you have back problems and you have a kid with a cast on, why would you think that going on a bike ride would be a good idea? Seriously, this is stupid. There's no reason to do that, man. And I guarantee you probably said to her, "Hey, there's no refunds, so just enjoy your time and then come back." Not to mention all the signs that said, "Hey, we can't give a refund on cash purchases." So for her to come back and be like, "I need a refund, please." It's like, dude, you either can't read or you're just stupid. And I'm at least leaning towards the second one because you're making a choice to make this difficult. Like, your poor planning is not my problem, lady. I can't help you. Because dealing with a customer like this is like dealing with an irrational toddler. They're not going to listen, and nothing you say is ever going to make a difference. My girlfriend of 2 weeks has severe anxiety and mental breakdowns and panic attacks at the drop of a hat, and I've just now realized that I don't want to be with her anymore, and at this point, I'm kind of wondering how I can break up with her without ruining her life, because right now I'm very worried and I don't know how to do this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for maybe about 2 weeks. She is a student at the same university that I attend, and we've gone on a total of 3 dates. And we had seen each other in university before, but started talking on Instagram. Now, on the very first date, we were talking, and by mistake, I called her by another name. And when I did this, she didn't take it well, even though it was an accident. She started shivering and got up and said that this was a mistake and went to her female friends and had a meltdown. She was in tears and even skipped class, and the entire time her friends were consoling her. And I was also there trying to calm her down. Eventually, she calmed down and we went for a coffee, where I told her I sometimes forget and confuse names and dates. We call daily, and she has grown incredibly attached to me. She's even planned out when we're going to be getting married, what the names of our children would be, and all things in between. I did at times tell her that she needs to get some kind of like professional help to deal with the panic attacks and anxiety, and that she needs some goals to get attached to. But every day she asks me, "You won't leave me, right?" And I just feel really sad when I tell her not to worry. So I'm honestly really worried about how this breaking up would affect her. I mean, we did start off saying that we're not looking for casuals, and we want a long-term thing where marriage is expected. And also, this has been her first relationship ever. She has told me about her anxiety and panic attacks, and I've experienced it firsthand over the 2 weeks of us being together. And it makes me think that honestly, I'm just not the right person for her. But even still, she's grown incredibly attached. I want a way out without making it hard for her, and that soon she'll be fine with losing me and can explore other options and not waste her time with me. I've even made up some issues relating to me and my family, that I have dementia, or that I'm misusing substances, or that I would probably go bald in like 2 years. And I did all of this combined as some sort of plan to like make her dump me, but instead she says she doesn't mind much. She genuinely thinks I have these problems and that she can fix me. She is incredibly sweet, smart, and kind and good looking, and I just realized I don't want a relationship and I just want to focus on my studies. So honestly, any help and suggestions in regards to this would be really helpful. What should I do? Okay, dude, you've got a dumper, and I think you got to do it sooner than later. First of all, someone's panic attacks and their anxiety is not your issue. That is for them to sort through and not for you to deal with. Especially this early into a relationship, dude. You guys have only been together for like 2 weeks, if that. You could be supportive and try to help them through it, but if she's not actively doing things to like monitor and take care of herself in this regard, then that literally is her fault and not yours. Like, she does not sound ready for a relationship at all. And it's like, holy crap, 2 weeks into a relationship and she's acting like this, saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get married on this date and these are gonna be our kids' names." Like, I don't know about you, but that's way too soon to be talking like that. You barely know this lady and she's trying to act like you guys are meant to be or some crap like that. Which, guess what? That is absolutely not the case, dude. You do not know her like that, man. And also, why are you lying to her about all this made up stuff? That's not gonna make her dump you. If anything, it's gonna make things worse when she finds out that you're lying. In my opinion, the best option here is to just be honest and to be as nice about it as possible. Maybe even tell her friends about it ahead of time by saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna break up with her in like the next 5 minutes, so you might want to be here for her when she freaks out." Because good lord, this just does not sound like a good relationship at all, and I could see this crashing and burning much sooner than later. Am I the jerk for not playing the unpaid courier for my neighbors, as all of their deliveries literally come to my front door, where they expect me to give it to them instead of picking it up for themselves? Because after a recent confrontation with one of my neighbors, I can honestly say I'm pretty offended and I'm kind of pissed off about this, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I've lived in my apartment for about a year now. Since the day that I moved in, my upstairs neighbors, and now more recently, the tenant in a detached building behind the main house, have been getting their packages and food deliveries dropped at my front door. And this is not once in a while. This is every other day. We're talking Amazon, Instacart, McDonald's. Apparently, my porch is their delivery hub. For months, I played the part of the unpaid courier, where I literally just walked everything to the right spot. Eventually, though, I stopped. I went cold turkey, and now I leave deliveries exactly where the driver leaves them, right at my front door. Now, here's where I might be the jerk in this scenario. This morning, the tenant from the detached building confronted me, literally at 5:30 in the morning, no less, and said, "You left my groceries outside until 10 o'clock at night." But I responded back by saying, "No, you left your groceries outside until 10 o'clock at night." The tenant then responded by saying, "It's not a big deal. Just bring them back next time." So I said to them, "Well, leave a note for your delivery driver in the app, or you can start tipping me for delivering your crap." And when I said that, that's when they stormed off, calling me names and losing their mind over all of this. I've already contacted my landlord, so I'm not taking this any further, but I am done being the delivery person for the house, and the person from this morning. So seriously, am I really the jerk for refusing to deliver everyone else's packages and food deliveries? Because this entire situation is very frustrating. Dude, there is no way I would ever be the unpaid courier for anybody dropping crap off at my doorstep. Seriously, this is so annoying. Like, why can't the delivery driver take it to the right building? The fact that you did this for a few months says way more about you than it does about me, because you obviously care about your neighbors and you're like willing to help them out, because I know for a fact I would let that sit there until the end of time. I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole. So no, you're not the jerk at all. You were being a nice guy for a little bit, but honestly, those days are done, especially if you're gonna have a neighbor who's acting like that, where instead of getting it themselves, they literally expect you to go get it for them. And that is incredibly entitled and so uncalled for. Am I the jerk for not helping out my coworker after she literally threw me under the bus a few weeks earlier? Because right now she is being very passive-aggressive over the fact that I am not helping her out, putting me in a situation that honestly has me questioning if I'm making a mistake or not. Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things off, I'm a 31-year-old female and I work in marketing, and there is this one coworker named Brenda who I used to be pretty friendly with. We would grab lunch together sometimes and chat about random stuff. Well, 3 months ago, we were working on a campaign together, and she completely missed her deadline, like didn't even start her part until the day before it was due. Our manager then called a meeting and asked what happened, and Brenda literally said that I didn't send her the brief on time, so she couldn't even start. But here's the thing, that was a straight up lie. I sent it 2 weeks early, and I had the email timestamps to prove it. I showed our manager and Brenda got written up. She then apologized to me privately, but it felt really fake, like she was just trying to cover her butt. Now she's working on this huge project, and she asked me if I could help her out by reviewing her presentation deck because she says she's not very good with design stuff. Now the thing is, I know she just wants me to fix all her mistakes just so she doesn't look bad again. Well, when she asked this, I told her I'm too busy with my own work. And when I said this, she got all passive aggressive, saying to me, "Oh, I thought we were friends. You know, I would come to you if you needed help." But it's like, okay, would you though? Because I'm honestly not sure if you would. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk for not helping out my coworker? Because what she did to me in the past still has me pretty pissed off. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Coworkers like this who will happily throw you under the bus to try and save their own skin are the same people who would happily do that kind of crap again. Because if Brenda could do this once, you better believe she could do this again if this somehow makes her look better. So by her asking like, "Hey, can you help me out with my presentation? I don't want it to look bad." That's her literally having a cop-out by saying, "Oh, if this looks bad, I'm gonna throw you under the bus again." So no, you're not the jerk. Brenda does not deserve your help because she burned you once, and you better believe she's fully capable of doing it again. Am I the jerk for canceling my subscription services that my whole family was secretly using behind my back? All because money was tight and I was trying to save just a little bit of coin. Because right now my family is pissed, saying that I should have told them in advance, despite the fact that they never helped me pay for any of it, putting me in a situation where I am still very pissed off and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so here's the situation I'm currently in. I'm a 26-year-old female and I pay for Netflix, Spotify Premium on a family plan, and I pay for HBO Max. The total comes out to like $45 a month, which granted, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but trust me, it definitely adds up. When I first got these subscriptions, it was just for me. But then my mom asked if she could use my Netflix, and I said to myself, okay, sure, no problem. Then my brother wanted my Spotify, and then my sister, my dad, my aunt, and even my cousin, who I barely talked to, somehow got my login information. Nobody ever offered to help pay for any of it, and I've been covering the full cost of it for like 2 years now. Well, last month I lost my job. I'm freelancing now, but money is really tight. So I decided to cancel everything except basic Netflix just for myself. I didn't announce it or anything like that. I just canceled the subscriptions. And now, guess what? My family is pissed off at me. My mom called saying that I should have given them warning so that they could make other arrangements. And my brother even texted me a long paragraph talking about how I'm being selfish and that it's only $45. I mean, why are you making such a big deal out of this? My sister offered to pay me back for the last few months, but then said I was petty for not telling anyone first. So truthfully, I feel bad, but also like it was my money. So am I the jerk for this? Because my family is really pissing me off. Man, your family is super entitled. You literally have been paying for this for 2 years on your own, and these people have been leeching off of it without paying for any of it themselves. Like, that is super obnoxious and incredibly annoying. So no, you're not the jerk here. I would have done the same thing, especially if money was tight. Because the way they're reacting is kind of like proving any kind of point you want to make about their entitlement. And I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would also be pretty pissed off. A restaurant my family was going to for a party refused to allow my disabled child to go through the restaurant, demanding instead that we go through the back entrance of the loading dock. But after trying to simply comply and do what they say and not cause a scene, I finally snapped, as I felt they were dehumanizing my daughter and discriminating against her simply because of her disability. And at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong or not, and I just don't know what to do moving forward. Here's what happened. Okay, I really need some perspective here because this situation left me deeply unsettled. For context, I have a beautiful 7-year-old 7-year-old child who is medically complex. She's blind, she's non-mobile, she's non-verbal, and living with a serious seizure disorder. Recently, my family hosted a celebration at a highly regarded local restaurant, and my wife, my children, and I all plan to attend. On the day of the event, we received a message from the event organizer stating that because my child uses a wheelchair, we would need to enter the restaurant through the non-public facing loading dock all the way in the back of the restaurant. The message explained that when we arrived, we could call and the staff would let us in. My initial reaction was that the message felt inconsiderate, but I assumed it was well-intentioned and I just didn't push back. While on our way to the restaurant, I asked my wife to call ahead of time and confirm whether there was a wheelchair-accessible entrance. Well, the person who answered told us that the front entrance was accessible. Based on that information, we parked in the designated handicap parking directly in front of the restaurant, unloaded my daughter, which as many parents of disabled children know, takes some time and effort, and we entered through the front door. At the hostess stand, we informed the staff that we were there for the party. The hostess then told us the event was in the back room, but then she said that we could not pass through the dining area and would instead need to use the side entrance. Now, without wanting to cause a scene, I nodded and guided my family back outside. We then walked approximately 7 minutes around the building to the side entrance. And by the way, it was already around 5:30 p.m., so it was already dark, with single-digit temperatures and sub-zero wind chill. The side entrance turned out to be a dark alley with no clear signage and a moderately sized outdoor stairwell with no ramp at all. I then asked my wife to go inside and see if a staff member could assist us. A waitress then came out and politely suggested that I could lift the wheelchair up the stairs myself. Well, after being cold, frustrated, and exhausted, I asked to speak with a manager. After waiting several minutes with no manager appearing, my brother-in-law noticed us, came outside, and helped me carry my daughter and her wheelchair up the stairs. Once inside, the manager approached me and asked if there was a problem. I then explained that the side entrance was not accessible and that we had been denied access through the front door despite being told it was accessible. The manager then responded that we should have entered through the loading dock. At that point, I became visibly upset, and I explained that the American Disabilities Act is about more than mere access. It's about equal convenience, equal experience, and most importantly, equal dignity. I explained that forcing my disabled child to enter through a non-public loading dock, requiring a long walk around the building in the extreme cold, walking past the trash and service areas before reaching the dining space, felt profoundly dehumanizing, not just for me, but to my child. The manager then said that she would inform the owner, but I replied that we are family friends with the owner and that we support the restaurant, and that I was not trying to make a scene, but I hope that this could be a learning moment. I ended by asking, admittedly with frustration, whether disabled patrons were welcome to dine there or whether they were always expected to enter through the back. During this exchange, my wife asked the manager to ignore me as I was clearly upset, and other family members also noticed the tension. On the drive home, my wife argued and yelled at me that I had been rude to the staff and that I should have just simply used the back entrance, given that it was a celebration and not the time to address this. I responded that I never intended to make a scene, but I will always advocate for my daughter because she cannot advocate for herself, even at family events or places that we love and support. Yes, I was angry, but the experience felt deeply dehumanizing. To make matters worse, my daughter had a seizure on the way home, but regardless, I'm still processing this and I'm honestly not sure what to do next. Okay, this story was infuriating. I don't know if anyone else felt that in their skin. Like, oh my gosh, I am so livid. Like, there's so many things wrong with this, and none of it come from the original poster or their daughter. First and foremost, to the original poster, you did the right thing. You were absolutely justified in getting frustrated and just a little bit pissed off at these people for not having some kind of accessibility for your daughter. You know, your disabled daughter who has a right to be there. And if I'm being honest, I don't think you were angry enough. Like, if that was me, I would have been flipping tables. I would have been right up in their face and saying, what do you mean my daughter can't go through the restaurant? No, I'm not going through the loading door. Are you crazy? There is no justification from these people for not allowing your daughter to go through the dining room over to the party. I don't care what their excuse is, because if they don't have the access for your daughter to get there, then congratulations, they're not compliant with like a bunch of laws. Like, that's unacceptable in and of itself. But also, if they just don't want someone who's disabled going through the restaurant itself, well then congratulations, these people are being discriminatory and that's also not okay. So you're in the right here. Like, you absolutely had to be an advocate for your daughter because clearly she can't do that herself. She's 7 years old, she's got a litany of medical problems, and it's not her fault. And in my opinion, you're completely justified to be pissed off at these people. I don't care how much of a family friend the owner is. This is not okay the way you were treated that day. Walking around the back to a back alley entrance through the bitter cold, all while taking your disabled child up the stairs with the help of your brother. Like, that is sick and twisted. Are you kidding me right now? When it comes to your wife, also, she is completely idiotic here. She's more pissed off at the fact that you were slightly frustrated, which again, you could have been way more pissed off if you really wanted to and it would have been okay, as opposed to these people literally discriminating against her daughter. Like, where is her mindset at? She should have been right next to you and been like, oh yeah, this is absolutely not okay. Because if you're gonna claim to be wheelchair accessible for like a restaurant or something like that, then congratulations, you need to accommodate accordingly. You don't tell them to go back through the loading door just to get in the restaurant. That is crazy. That's incredibly dehumanizing and not okay. So no, you are completely justified for being pissed off at these people. That is unacceptable the way they treated you and your family, and I also think your wife is completely in the wrong for trying to spin this against you when she really should have been standing right by your side, equally as pissed off at these people for literally forcing you to walk around the building just to get into the restaurant. That is some unacceptable garbage, and there is no good excuse. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I've worked in hospitality for 10 years, and I think what really hurts the most is feeling like I'm beneath people, because now it's honestly starting to weigh on me and I simply can't take it any longer. Here's what's going on. So like the title says, I've worked in hospitality for almost 10 years. I've been a waiter, a supervisor, a manager, all at different places, but I still have the same feeling. It's an industry where who you know matters more than what you know, where someone becomes a manager at 22 years old because they know the right people, and then they'll ask you how to do the job that you've been doing for years. When you speak up, you're told, oh, that's just part of the job. And honestly, what hurts isn't only the long hours, and it's not just the rude guests. It's the constant sense of being underappreciated. Like guests or customers think that we owe them something just for being there. Some people don't even really look at you. They talk at you and not even to you, like you're part of the service and not a person doing it. There's this quiet idea that because they're paying, they're above you, that respect, patience, or even basic acknowledgement are optional. You give your energy, your time, your calmness, even when you're exhausted. And most days it goes completely unnoticed. You learn to accept it. You lower your expectations. You tell yourself, oh, it's just part of the job, until one day you realize how heavy that feels after years of doing it. Now, I don't hate people. I don't hate hospitality or anything like that. I just wish that basic respect and fair recognition weren't treated like something extra that we all have to earn. Because after years of doing this, I'm honestly just very tired. Oh man, raise your hand if this connects to you, because I absolutely connect with this. I've done jobs as like a server or like a front office worker at like a doctor's office, or even like a cashier and anything in between with like customer relations. And my God, I understand completely what the original poster's talking about. I can't stand customers or guests or like medical patients who come in and act like you are like their slave or something like that. It's obnoxious, and my God, is it prevalent. Like, I've run into so many people who expect you to bend over backwards for them while they give you the worst attitude you could possibly expect. Like, it is so obnoxious. So truly, I connect with this story so much, and I feel for the original poster, because being in that industry is definitely not easy. Am I the jerk for refusing to move my dad's old car from my neighborhood? Because right now, my neighbors are suffering after my condo association literally made a new rule because of me that's directly affecting them, putting me in a situation where I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm a 26-year-old female and I own my own condo in Tampa. My dad passed away 8 months ago and I inherited his car. It's a 2004 Honda Accord. It's kind of beat up and it's definitely an eyesore if I'm being completely honest. I have my own car, so the Accord just sits in my assigned parking spot. Well, the condo association started bothering me about it like 4 months ago, saying it's abandoned because I don't drive it enough. I've gotten 6 violation notices and probably about $2,000 in fines at this point. Well, here's where I might be the jerk. Last month, the board passed a new rule. Any vehicle that hasn't moved in 14 days is getting flagged. The owner gets one warning and then the daily fines start coming in. They said it was to keep the lot from becoming a storage facility, but everybody knows they made this rule because of me. The thing is, this new rule is now screwing over other people. There's an older guy on the first floor who travels for weeks at a time for work, and he's gotten fined twice already. A woman in Building C had surgery and couldn't drive for 3 weeks, and she got fined as well. Someone went on their honeymoon and came back to a notice on their car. Now, people are pissed off at the board, but also they're pissed off at me, because everyone knows this rule exists because I wouldn't back down about my dad's car. I got a letter signed by like 12 residents asking me to just please get rid of the car so the board would repeal the rule. One guy even knocked on my door and said that I was being selfish and that my dad wouldn't want me making enemies over a piece of junk. Now that one really stung because he's probably right. My dad would tell me to stop being dramatic and pick my battles. We weren't even that close until like the last couple of years of his life, and half the time that I look at the car, I don't even feel sad. I just feel stubborn. But also, I didn't make this rule, the board did. They could have just left me alone or made an exception or literally anything else. Instead, they went nuclear and now everybody's suffering and somehow that's my fault. I know I could end this tomorrow by selling the car, and it's probably worth like $2,000 maybe, and I've already spent more than that fighting. At this point, I don't even know if I want the car or if I just refuse to let these people win. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for not backing down even though my stubbornness is affecting the whole building? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, while I am kind of a fan of how like obstinate and stubborn you're being, I do think this is your fault, and I do kind of think you're the jerk here because it sounds like you don't even want this car. You weren't that close to your dad, and it sounds like you're just keeping it around to try and like prove a point, when in my opinion, it's probably just easier to get rid of the car, like you don't even want it anyways. So yeah, I do think you're the jerk, and I think it would probably be better to just sell the car and move on with your life, because this is clearly pissing off your neighbors, and I just don't think it's worth the hassle. Am I the jerk for not wanting my boyfriend's parents to join our dream vacation after he literally invited them without asking me first? Because right now it kind of seems like it's all falling apart, and I'm at a point where I'm super frustrated and I just don't know what to do next. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years and living together for 2. Overall, our relationship has been very good. He has mentioned several times that he plans on proposing within the next year, and we hope to start a family around 2027. He also has a close relationship with his parents. He visits them weekly and goes on yearly family holidays with them. I also have a pretty good relationship with his parents, as they've always been kind and supportive towards me. Now, we have dreamed of doing a United States RV road trip together next summer. As we're planning to start a family in the coming years, this would probably be our last big trip as a couple. We're based in Europe, and traveling to the United States is very expensive for us, so this is likely a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Well, during Christmas at his parents' house, the topic of travel came up. When we mentioned our plans, his mother said that traveling through the United States had been a dream of hers as well. My boyfriend then asked his parents if they would like to join us, all without discussing it beforehand. Well, his mother immediately said yes. I didn't address it at the moment because I didn't want to create tension during a family holiday, but later I shared with my boyfriend that I felt uncomfortable with how the invitation happened and that I would have preferred to be consulted first. He then explained that he saw it as a practical solution, since renting an RV is expensive and sharing the cost would make the trip more affordable, but I told him I needed time to think about it. After reflecting on it for a week, I still felt uncomfortable about his parents joining us. I had always thought about this trip as a couple's experience rather than like a family vacation. Given our plans to start a family, this really felt like an important opportunity for us to travel together. While I love his parents, spending several weeks together in an RV would involve limited privacy and different travel needs. When I shared this with my boyfriend, he became very emotional. Then he told me that he worries this could be one of his parents' last opportunities for a major trip. They are pushing 80 and would not be able to afford something like this on their own. He wants to spend meaningful time with them and create memories while he still can. While I do understand where he's coming from, this trip was always meant to be a shared dream between the two of us. Being expected to change the entire nature of it after the fact makes me feel as though my wishes and boundaries are secondary. So my boyfriend suggested a compromise, renting a car and staying in hotels instead of an RV. But I declined, as the RV experience is a big part of the trip, and hotels would be more expensive. At this point, my boyfriend has said that he intends to go on the trip with his parents, whether or not I join, and I'm struggling with how I feel about this and what it means for our relationship. So seriously, am I the jerk for sticking to my boundary and not wanting his parents to come along? Because at this point, I don't know what else to do. Okay, in my opinion, first off, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your boyfriend absolutely should have consulted you first before being like, hey mom, you want to come along with us? Like, dude, you gotta talk to the other person who's doing the traveling as well first before making that kind of decision. Like, his rationale behind it was like, oh yeah, well, it only makes sense. An RV's gonna be expensive, so I brought my parents along. But it's like, bro, if you felt that way, then maybe talk about it ahead of time instead of justifying your crappy decision. Because my God, what is he doing? He literally just bypassed you and said, oh, this is what we're doing. My parents are coming along, and if you don't want to go, then guess what? I'll just go anyways. And it's like, what kind of weird ultimatum is that? I mean, does this guy even care about you at all? Like, it really doesn't seem like he does. It seems like he's only thinking about his parents and not his future wife. Like, what is happening right now? So no, you're not the jerk, but honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be so pissed off because your boyfriend essentially ruined this trip that you've been looking forward to, and that is absolutely not fair. My boomer mother simply does not understand the job market because she thinks it's easy to get a job when in reality it is literally one of the hardest experiences I've ever gone through in my entire life. And now, after listening to her complaining all the time, I seriously feel like my mental health is taking a hit. And at this point, I simply can't take it anymore and I don't know what else to do. Here's what's happening. So I need to start off by saying that my boomer mother is completely out of touch with reality. It's like her brain is running on outdated software, which has not been updated in decades. She's retired and still thinks the job market is the same as it was during her time. You know, when you could apply for any job you want, have a one-stage interview, and maybe get hired right on the spot. Anyone looking for work these days knows that that sort of situation is extremely rare. So I've got a computer science degree and I've been looking for work in tech for a few months now, and I've done over 100 applications. I already have experience and I have worked for multiple companies before, alternating between permanent and freelance jobs. I could easily increase the applications if I wanted to, but that's not the main problem because I have been getting interviews. The main problem is that every single interview is a multiple stage process where you have to go through many rounds with different interview screens, hiring managers, other developers, and tech testers, etc. It's unfortunately just the way that companies hire for these types of roles, but my boomer mother does not understand it at all. In her mind, all interviews are supposed to be one stage, and you should be getting an offer on the day or a few days later if it's going to be face-to-face. What she fails to realize is that firstly, these types of roles are getting about 100 applications, and secondly, the company is probably using AI to sort and filter candidates, adding another level of difficulty before you can even talk to a human. And then, even if you do get an interview, you're not the only person the company is interviewing. I had a face-to-face interview with a company, and my boomer mother believed that meant I was the only person they would interview, and that I should get the job unless I screwed something up. Well, lo and behold, I didn't get the job. And you know what? When I signed in on the day before the interview, I saw that at least another 6 people had interviewed with that company already today. That's how competitive the job market is. She sees the news about unemployment and the bad economy in the news, and it still does not register in her head. I even tried applying for some non-tech roles as an experiment to see what it's like on the other side. I applied for 2 delivery driver roles and I got rejected. One had too many applicants, so the job was not available, and the second, I was told I lived too far from the depot, so I wasn't eligible for an interview. I even tried a warehouse job, but I just got completely ghosted. They never even bothered to respond to my application, and yet my boomer mother assumes you can apply for any job you want and just get hired easily, saying, oh, you must not be trying hard enough. But I am interviewing, and I've either made it close to the final stage or made it to the final stage interviews, which is no easy task. And instead, she's ungrateful and rude and can't understand why I'm still interviewing at the same company like almost 3 months later. But seriously, that is just the way it is. You think I want to be interviewing the same company for months? They are not going to give the first person they interview a job offer on day 1 of their interview process. Like, she will never understand what it's actually like. Instead of congratulating me for making actual progress, you know, going through these tiresome interview stages, which is affecting my mental health, by the way, she's complaining because I had an interview with a company that is still interviewing other people, and they didn't choose to give me an offer on the day. Instead, they chose to interview the other candidates on their list. Like, seriously, can you hear how ridiculous that sounds? The job market is bad across almost all career fields today. I worked in a non-tech career field before, and even that hiring process had multi-stage interviews, and it had reference checks. It's just tiresome having to explain how bad the job market is to her, why it can take months to get a job offer, and how people can end up being unemployed for months. The only thing that comes to her simple mind is that unemployed people are clearly not trying hard enough, and that finding work is easy, so there must be something wrong with us. But it's like, yeah, right. I'd like to see her compete with over 100 other applicants for the same role and justify why she should be the one hired over them. But that won't happen because she's analog. She can't even use a computer to do job applications and would be forced to go out with a handwritten resume because she can't use a Word document or a printer. Because in her day, finding a job was easy, but in our day, it's not. Also, the concept of ghosting is also foreign to her. She has no idea what it is and why people or companies would do that. She believes that if you apply for a job, then you should 100% be getting responses from all of them. So when I don't get responses to some jobs or interviews, she just assumes that I screwed something up, or that I'm not good enough for the job, and that I should try a different career field or something like that. When in reality, people get ghosted all the time regardless of career field. Maybe the job's not available, or there's a ghost job posting, their hiring's on pause, there's a rude hiring manager, they're just slow to respond, etc. and so on. Like, there are literally dozens of reasons. She also foolishly believes that because she sees people working in different stores and restaurants when she's out and about, then that must mean that the company is hiring and has jobs available. So so I should go out with my resume and hand it in. But if you go out with a physical resume looking for work, you look completely out of touch with reality because everything has become digital, and the majority of job applications are done online. Just because you see people working in a store or in an office, it does not mean the company is actively hiring. It just means that those people were lucky to get jobs, but she doesn't know what it took for them to get the job in the first place. Maybe it took them months for them to get there, but she can't see what they went through. All she can see is that someone has a job and they are working, so getting work must be easy. Like seriously, make it make sense, boomer. I'm tired of her gaslighting and making everything up with her outdated logic. She only had to do maybe 10 job applications with a one-stage interview to just get a job offer in a day or so. Meanwhile, we have to do hundreds of job applications and go through multiple stages of interviews over months to get the same results. We are literally not the same, and honestly, this job search is messing with my mental health. And trust me, my mom is absolutely not helping with this. Yeah, I would be pretty pissed off if I had someone saying, "Oh, it's so easy to get a job." Meanwhile, they've been retired for like 15 years and they have no idea what they're talking about. Like that in and of itself is super frustrating, and I would also be very pissed off. So hopefully things work out for you and you're able to find a job and get her off your back. Because you can bet if she tried to get a job nowadays, she would probably crash and fail just like anybody else. Because you are so right, the job market is so tough right now, and it is a miserable experience trying to apply for so many different jobs. My ex-girlfriend broke up with me all because she expected me to pay for everything in her life, as she slowly expected me to pay more and more money towards her, regardless of if I could afford it or not, putting me in a situation where I feel completely demoralized and just a little bit broken over this, because right now I don't know if there's something wrong with me. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, during the 10 months that we were together, I paid for everything. And when I say everything, I really mean everything. I paid for our dates, activities, food, gifts, travel, and this includes 3 different holidays as well as her traveling to me. And trust me, the list goes on from there. She didn't offer to pay at all, which I did notice. However, I just kind of brushed it off. It really felt like I wouldn't be a gentleman if I asked a woman to pay, and I didn't want to cause a fuss. And to be honest, I was completely okay with this, as I have a good paying job and savings to my name. I wanted to be a man in her eyes and prove to her that I was a caring partner who genuinely loved her. A few months in, we were at a shop to grab some snacks and some drinks, and she grabbed what she wanted and waited at the cashier. When I arrived, she was standing there just expecting me to pay for her and myself. Well, I called her out on this later about her lack of financial contribution, and she told me that as a man, I'm expected to pay for his woman, and that most relationships are this way. When she said this, I was really hurt, especially as I had paid for everything up to that point. The least she could have done was help out just a bit. Well, long story short is that I lost my cool, and I said that she was just digging for gold, which really upset her and made her cry. I felt really bad afterwards, and I still do to this day. It really wasn't like me to result to name calling. She then broke up with me, but I apologized and managed to reconcile with her, explaining that I didn't mean what I said and that I would do my best to provide for us. Despite this, she was an amazing girlfriend. She made me feel loved and happy in ways I haven't felt in a long time, which made me want to strive to be the best for her and give her the world. It was my first relationship in a while, and in hindsight, I put her on a pedestal in my life, and perhaps I was too infatuated. She was incredibly attractive, and I felt completely out of my league with her. Admittedly, I have been quite the introverted and lonely person before her, and I genuinely wanted to make her happy because I truly loved and cared for her. I wanted her to have the best experiences in life and to be a loving partner, which she said she loved me for taking care of her all the time, both emotionally and financially. However, over time, I just felt that I couldn't keep this financial situation going. Part of me started feeling like she loved me for what I provided and not for who I am as a person. I live in a Western country with a high cost of living, and my dream is to save up for a house deposit and eventually get a property for us one day. But with the amount of spending I did on her, I couldn't and wasn't able to save much at all during our time together. I started to feel a bit of resentment and unappreciated for the one-sided effort I was putting in. She works full-time as a doctor and makes a good salary. I asked her if she could send me some of a small fraction of the money that I'd spent on her, especially after 2 holidays abroad, so I could help pay some credit card bills and put some of it towards our future savings. And although she did do this, she resented me for it because she said this wasn't a masculine thing to do to a woman in her view. She blew up at me about this a few days later, and I sent the money back to her to try and calm the situation. We had an argument over money again, and she said to me, "My money is my money and your money is our money. A man should feel privileged that a woman is letting him spend money on her. As your future wife, I'm not paying a single penny to you. If I can pay my bills myself at the moment, then why do I need you? If you can't provide for me, then let another man take me and do it instead." She also explained that as a man, it's so unattractive for her to be asking about a woman's salary and what she chooses to do with it, especially as she felt I was trying to live off her income as well as mine, which I absolutely wasn't. She explained that for our future arrangement, she wanted to continue working as a doctor as her career is very important to her, and that even when we had kids, I had to pay for a nanny, give her a monthly allowance, and have any property in both our names for her security. And he said a real man would do that if he truly loved and cared for his woman. And at this point, I was honestly in disbelief that I just didn't really know how to respond. She then broke up with me, saying that it wasn't going to work out in the long run, and it left me absolutely heartbroken. Fast forward to today, and I'm still gripped with the thought that I failed her and I failed myself. I really wonder if the problem actually was with me. If I had made more money or worked harder, could I have been a better man for her? Was I wrong to bicker about money, as she put it? I tried to understand her point of view the best I could, thinking to myself as a woman, if a man can't provide to you and your future kids, especially in hard times, then why would you want to marry such a man in the first place? All of my friends, family, and coworkers have told me that I dodged a massive train and that they're glad she isn't in my life anymore, but a part of me truly feels that I failed. I still feel really bad for the things that I said, and although she says she forgave me, she said that I made her feel like a gold digger for just asking for the bare minimum, and that it's such a burden for me to provide for her. It just makes me think that if I can do all this for someone and they still leave me, then perhaps there's something wrong with me in general. What should I do? Okay, holy crap, dude, you really did dodge a train. I need you to understand that first and foremost. Your girlfriend is an absolute scumbag, and she absolutely was only in it for your money. She didn't care about you, she didn't care about anything you were doing, she only cared about the dollar bills in your pocket, and that's it. Like truly, that's all this comes down to, because her rationale is absolutely stupid. And here's the thing, in my opinion, she only attacked your manhood because she knew this would get to you in a way that would manipulate you. Like, this lady is a doctor, so I'm willing to bet she probably makes pretty good money in general, meaning that she absolutely can pitch in if she actually cared about you in the first place. For me, the biggest red flag is the fact that your money apparently belongs to the both of you, while her money stays with her. Like, I don't know about you, but that seems really sketchy, and it does seem like, yeah, she's only digging for gold. She only wants the coins in your back pocket, and that's it. Like, she said it herself, oh, if you can't take care of me, then I'll find someone who can. So trust me, you dodged a train with this lady. You're gonna find someone who is way better than her because there's nothing wrong with you. You actually have a soul, while this lady sounds like she just does not care at all about your existence. She only cared about how much money you made and how much you could spend on her, which means she is a terrible girlfriend and you deserve way better than this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for trying to help my neighbor shovel her driveway after I watched her struggling due to some kind of illness? Because after her dad came out and started screaming at me, it made me think that maybe I did something wrong, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 19-year-old male and I was already outside shoveling my own driveway when I noticed my neighbor, who's about 18 years old, across the street shoveling hers. I don't really know her, but something immediately looked off. She kept stopping, bending over, holding her stomach, and occasionally her chest too. But then she suddenly slipped and fell in the snow. Now I saw that and I walked over to check on her, and I asked if she was okay, and she said yeah, but she looked really pale and was still holding her stomach. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what was wrong. I then asked if she needed help, and she said that she had to get the driveway done before her dad left for work, and apparently her dad was still inside at this point. I then told her that I could just finish it real quick if she needed to rest, but as we were talking, her dad came outside. He saw me shoveling and immediately started yelling, asking me what I was doing and why was I on his driveway. I tried to explain that his daughter had fallen down and looked really unwell, and that I was just helping her out. But when I said this, he became visibly upset and said that if he wanted his daughter to shovel the snow, she would, and that I need to back off of his property. So I left, and after I did, he put up a no trespassing sign in his lawn around a day later. Now, I am autistic, and I know I often misread situations, so I asked my mom and my sister, who both said that they thought I was in the right, but I also know they would lie to make me feel better. And I also understand how it could be seen as demeaning in a way towards her, as I am a pretty big, dark, and ugly guy, and I have been told I can look scary sometimes. So I can understand how that may look from the dad's perspective. I've been thinking about it, and I believe that I may have acted in a way that makes me the jerk, but I'm honestly not sure. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk for going over and checking on someone for slipping. I think any rational or normal human being, besides the dad in the story, would have happily run over and been like, hey, are you okay? I saw you fall down. Not to mention the fact that you said, I'll cover your driveway, just go in and get some rest, like it's no problem. Like that's a normal human thing to do. I just don't think you did anything wrong in that regard. So for the dad to literally show no empathy for his clearly sick daughter, and for acting like you're some kind of like weirdo on his property, like that is honestly so weird and just so uncalled for. Because dude, you're literally trying to help out. Your daughter is falling down in the snow, like obviously she's not doing well, and she obviously needs some kind of help, like why are you making her do this? So all in all, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you did the right thing by at least trying to help out, and the fact that this guy freaked out on you and treated you like a criminal, in my opinion, was just completely unnecessary. Am I the jerk for being glad after watching a kid get kicked out of the adults-only spa that I paid extra for? Because I gotta be honest, it was really satisfying watching them leave, and I'm not sure if that makes me a bad person or not. Here's how it happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I went on a cruise over the holidays, and I paid an extra $600 for a week-long access to the adults-only spa for me and my husband. That's right, that's $600 specifically to have a quiet, relaxing space away from chaos. So I'm in there trying to decompress, and it's right then and there that I notice there's a kid, like a legit child, probably around 5 or 7 years old, just squirming around on the loungers, clearly bored out of his mind. Meanwhile, the dad is passed out or pretending to be asleep on a lounger nearby, doing absolutely nothing about it. The kid wasn't screaming or anything like that, but he was jumping around and fidgeting, and being a kid, which is distracting when you're trying to relax in a space that you literally paid extra for because it said no children. The spa attendant came over and very politely told them the spa was adults only, and they needed to take the child out. That's when the mom appears out of nowhere and loudly goes, "Oh honey, they don't want you in here, so now we all have to leave." Making sure everybody heard it, and making her kid feel like we were the bad guys for enforcing a rule that she chose to ignore. Like, ma'am, this cruise ship has an arcade and a kid zone, and 2 water slides and bumper cars. Endless stuff for children to do. Why would you bring your kid to a quiet spa where people are paying to get away from exactly this, and then act offended when someone tells you the rules apply to you? So honestly, am I the jerk for kind of getting a kick out of this? As I was pretty satisfied that this kid got thrown out of the adults-only spa, because right now I don't know if I'm in the wrong. No, I wouldn't feel bad about that at all. The mom clearly has some kind of like entitlement, and the fact that she thought she could bring her stupid kid in there is completely unacceptable. I'm also glad that there was an attendant there to like swoop in and be like, no, you can't be in here. Because seriously, why else would you pay $600 extra for that kind of access? Like, good lord, don't bring your stupid kid in here. I want to be away from that garbage. So no, of course you're not the jerk. This absolutely is unacceptable. And the fact that anybody would be pissed off and be like, oh, they don't want you in here, that would almost make me be like, yeah, you're right, we don't want you in here. Please don't let the door hit you on the way out. Because I am absolutely not paying to deal with that kind of entitlement. Am I the jerk for not lying about wetting the bed, and supposedly for embarrassing my parents about this? Because they've always treated these accidents with such disdain that it's made me feel terrible about myself, and it's really become a dividing factor for me and my family, and at this point I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm an 18-year-old female, and I had a weird week around Christmas where I was having a lot of nightmares and interrupted sleep. I think what happened was that when I did fall asleep, I was sleeping really deeply because I woke up having wet the bed. This was a thing that I used to do when I was stressed when I was little, and my parents always shamed me for these accidents. Even during the day, they seemed to view me needing the bathroom as a personal inconvenience. So anytime it happened, I set an alarm to wake up early so I could do laundry and clean up before they notice anything. I have a couple of friends I'm really close with, and we were talking about how we're all really stressed with college applications. One of my friends admitted her hair is falling out from stress, and we went around sharing more and more embarrassing things that have been happening to us recently, until I finally said jokingly, hey, don't tell anybody, but I think I got stressed enough that I wet the bed. Well, it turns out that one of my friends told her mom because she was worried about me, and her mom is a doctor, which is sweet, but her mom called mine, and now my parents are really angry at me for embarrassing them by keeping a secret from them. I told them that I was embarrassed and afraid they would punish me, and they said, you must not be that afraid because you're telling other people's parents. Except I trust my friends, and I honestly trust their parents as well. My friend's mom didn't yell at me, and when I went to her house, she was really nice to me. My parents have told me that I'm not allowed to see that friend outside of school until I apologize to her mom for lying. In fact, they told me that I need to say I was lying just for the attention. Except I wasn't, and you know what? I'm refusing to start lying now. I don't mean to broadcast on the internet that I wet the bed because I feel like a big baby, but I did. And I think it's my choice to tell whoever I want as well as the truth. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you are not the jerk, but also your parents suck. They're literally judging you and treating you like you're a mistake just because you wet the bed. Like, there are so many people, including teenagers, who struggle with that all the time. It can be really hard to control, and it's honestly embarrassing. Like, truly, this is a very weird reaction. And you were just having a moment of like honesty with your friends and saying, yeah, this is something I'm struggling with because I'm stressed out. Which, by the way, chances are all of them have had this problem at some point in their lives as well. So if I was in your shoes, I would never lie about this. I would absolutely just stick to my story and be like, no, this is what's happening in my life right now, regardless of if your parents are ashamed of this or not. Which, by the way, this is a normal thing for a teenager or a kid to go through. Because from the sounds of it, your parents are just trying to save face for some stupid reason, when in reality, they should be trying to support you instead. My boyfriend broke up with me after I embarrassed him in front of his friends who I was just meeting for the first time. And despite the fact that I tried to apologize for the way I was acting, he still is refusing to hear me out, putting me in a scenario where I honestly just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what happened. Okay, so we had been together for a month and a half, and 3 days ago we had a small argument. While I was trying to talk things through and resolve the issue, he didn't want to talk, which caused the situation to drag on much longer than it should have, and we actually didn't even speak for like 3 days. We finally talked last night and decided to meet up, and when we met, he postponed the discussion again because his friends were also there. I didn't know what came over me, but even though it was my first time meeting his friends, I caused trouble and acted moody all evening. Naturally, his friends were really uncomfortable, and eventually he said he would take me home and we left. On the way, we finally talked things out. We resolved our issues and apologized to each other, and he even kissed me for the first time. However, after we went our separate ways, he broke up with me via text messaging. My English isn't good enough to go into every detail, but considering how I acted in front of his friends, I completely understand his decision. You can imagine how uncomfortable it is to have someone you've just met sitting across from you acting moody and irritable. I embarrassed him in front of his friends, and I truly regret it. I apologized to him and offered to send an apology message to his friends as well, but he said it wasn't necessary. I'm not just saying this to change his mind, like I'm genuinely regretful for my behavior, but that's a separate issue. I'm wondering if there is still any hope to fix things. I really like him, and we were very compatible until this point. He also ended things very firmly in his message without being hurtful. The fact that he was so considerate even while breaking up makes me feel even worse, because I failed to show even a fraction of the same sensitivity. Now, I had given the bracelet I bought him as a New Year's gift to the jeweler to have the size adjusted, and I also have his helmet. And with that, he's going to be coming to see me in a few days to get them back. So seriously, is there anything I can do in this situation? Because right now I'm kind of at a loss. Okay, in my opinion, the fact that you guys have only been together for like a month and a half and you're already having an argument and it's just kind of tense and things are weird, like in my opinion, maybe this just wasn't a good fit at all. It kind of seems like this might be a scenario where you chalk it up as, well, I tried my best and it didn't work out, but now I'm just going to move on, instead of some long-standing relationship where it's like, oh, I've known this person for like 7 years and now it's all gone overnight. Like, that would be a completely different situation, but in this scenario, you've been together for like 6 weeks, and in my opinion, it just doesn't sound like you guys are a good fit for each other. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would just give him his stuff and then I would try to move on, because I think both of you might be better off with other people, especially considering the circumstance that you just described. My job running a fast food restaurant is always filled with impatient customers, but the one I dealt with today absolutely blew my mind because she was probably the most impatient person I've had to deal with in a very long time. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I run a fast food restaurant. Yesterday, we were short on people and our sales were higher than they were projected to be. It was me in the kitchen and a newer crew member up front. She's fully trained but still has trouble with speed in a couple of areas. She still has a little trouble finding items on the register and stuff, which is fine. I mean, she always does her best and is showing improvement every single day, and that's all that I can really ask for. So she's taking an order at the counter, and right after she started that order, a car drove up to the speaker. I get on the headset and I say to them, "Hi there, if you could just take a look at the menu for a bit, we'll be with you as soon as possible. We're a bit short-staffed, so we apologize for the delay." Well, not long after, the people in the drive-thru must not realize that we can hear everything they say, because I heard the driver yell, "Come on, lady, what's taking so long?" And it literally had not even been 2 minutes. So I get on the headset and I say, "Oh, I'm sorry for the wait. There's just 2 of us here right now and my team member is taking an order on counter and we'll be with you as soon as she's finished." Then I hear the driver whisper, "Oh, I thought this was supposed to be fast food." So needless to say, at this point I'm already irritated. But I've dealt with rude customers before, thankfully not that often, but I've learned not to let it get to me. I realize the counter order is getting pretty big and they aren't finishing orders, so I left the kitchen for a minute so that I could take the drive-thru order so that they weren't waiting any longer since they were already very impatient. And this is the part that really pissed me off. She then rattles off a couple sandwiches and sides, and then says, okay, now what do I want? And just sits there for another minute or so looking at the menu, deciding what they want to eat themselves. I don't care if people take a bit to look at the menu and figure out what they want, but why in the world were you rushing us if you didn't even know what you wanted? They sat there so impatiently, but couldn't use that time to figure out what she wanted to get herself? Like seriously, that's so ridiculous. I mean, sure, in the grand scheme of things, this is so stupid to get annoyed over, but we already had one crazy day. My entire shift of nearly 12 hours, I literally only had one other person working with me, when we should have had like myself and 3 other people. The person I had up front had only been there for about an hour and a half at that point, and was already overwhelmed with all of it. I was exhausted myself at this point, and then this customer decides to act like an idiot, just adding to that stress. Because people like this are incredibly annoying. Oh my gosh, I cannot stand dealing with people like this. They're simultaneously impatient and in a rush, but also when it's their turn and they're ready to go, suddenly they have to wait and figure out what they want. It's like, dude, if you're really in a rush, you would know exactly what you need. So it's like, oh, you're not actually in a hurry. You're just impatient and annoying. And I cannot stand that. So I completely relate with the original poster and I know exactly what they're talking about. Am I the jerk for refusing to dress up so that I would match my best friend who decided to show up to a casual work get-together in a really fancy dress? Because right now she's trying to like blame me for this entire situation going south, and I'm honestly really confused because I just don't know what to do next. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I work with 3 guys all in their late 20s as well as my best friend who is my age. We plan to go out for a dinner with the rest of our coworkers and my boss, who mentioned to me that it was a casual night out and asked us just to dress casually. Well, my best friend and the 3 guys planned to meet up at my place so we could all go together. Now, all of us were dressed casually until my best friend showed up in what honestly looked like a prom-level dress. Not to be judgmental, but she was very much overdressed. And honestly, all of us were kind of confused. What surprised me even more is when she asked me to change into some kind of fancy dress just so I could match her vibe. Being the only 2 girls there, she wanted us to stand out. Regardless though, I said no, because it was a work hangout, and I was dressed normally just like everybody else. She later told me that I made her feel out of place and embarrassed. So now I'm kind of wondering, am I the jerk for refusing to change my outfit just to match what she was wearing? Because right now I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, this is not your fault. Your friend overdressed and she's trying to like compensate by being like, hey, can you bail me out? Can you also dress up so I don't look like an idiot? Like, that's so weird and that is not your fault. You shouldn't be expected to jump in a dress at the last minute, all because your friend made a really stupid decision. She literally did this to herself and is somehow trying to be like, wow, you made me feel awful for standing out. But it's like, dude, why did you wear that? You knew this was a casual thing. So no, you're not the jerk. This is so weird. It's weird that she wants to sit there and act like this is your fault when in reality, this falls squarely on her shoulders. My entitled upstairs neighbors thought that the quiet hours didn't apply to them, as they literally would play loud, booming music at all hours of the night, causing me, their downstairs neighbor, to literally get no sleep. So I decided to get some very well-deserved revenge by documenting every instance of them making noise, which eventually led to them getting evicted and kicked out of the apartment complex. Here's how it all went down. So I live in the bottomest below-ground apartment. This is not poetic license, it is a geological and emotional reality. My windows are at shin level. Spiders make eye contact with me like we're coworkers, and the sun checks in twice a day and then leaves me on red. This matters because sound does not behave normally down here. It does not fade or disperse. It settles in like it pays rent and then complains about the amenities. The entitled people upstairs moved in sometime in early spring. I know this because this is when sleep stopped being a thing that I did and started being a thing I remembered fondly. They were a couple, or maybe several couples, or maybe a rotating cast of people who all believed the apartment complex existed primarily to host them. The configuration changed often, but the entitlement was constant. They would play this music all into the night to hours past the apartment complex's rules on this, which are posted in several places, including directly by the mailboxes, and also in the lease they definitely did not read. Being the bottomest below-ground apartment, their music echoed like a maddening cacophony through my apartment. Bass first, then the lyrics, then the faint sound of them yelling at each other over the music, as if that somehow helps. And this wasn't normal loud music. This was music played by people who believe quiet hours are a vibe and not a rule. Bass heavy, soul rattling. Is this an earthquake or remix music? My dishes vibrated, my shelves creaked, my bed frame developed opinions. At 3 in the morning, I would lie there staring at the ceiling, listening to someone else's playlist and wondering how a person becomes so confident that no one else exists. I tried being normal about it first. I knocked on their door, I smiled, I said, "Hey, sorry to bother you. I live downstairs and the sound really carries." They looked surprised. Not apologetic surprised, just surprised that consequences had a physical form. Well, they apologized anyways and turned it down, and I slept for exactly 1 night. After that, the volume came back like it was offended I had noticed it. I escalated my politeness, which in hindsight was foolish, but at the time felt reasonable. I was nice, I shared some good devil's lettuce with them as a gift occasionally, if you know what I mean. Baked them things like banana bread cookies, the kind of baked goods that say, "Please see me as a person." They accepted all of it happily, they thanked me, and then continued to blast their music like I was an abstract concept. I left notes, polite ones with smiley faces on them, exclamation points used sparingly, but nothing. I even texted them once after they gave me their number, and they responded with a thumbs up emoji, which I think translates roughly to "cool story, bro." When I mentioned the complex quiet hours, they laughed and said, "Yeah, but everyone does it." And this is an important sentence because it tells you everything you need to know about them. Not that the rule was unclear or unfair or inconvenient, but that they simply didn't believe that it applied to them. I did my best to get the landlords to do anything, but it appeared that I would be required to do something about it myself. The leasing office was polite in the way that suggests they have dealt with this kind of person many times. They said, "We'll remind them of the policy and we'll send a notice, but please let us know if it continues." Well, guess what? It continued. So I documented. I put down dates, times, and duration. I put down the audio clips, mostly for my own sanity, so I could play them back later and confirm that yes, this was real and not some kind of stress hallucination. I emailed every incident calmly and consistently, like a deeply boring ghost. The entitled people upstairs responded by becoming louder, stomping, shouting, playing music earlier and later. Sometimes they would do it on Tuesdays, which feels very targeted. They argued loudly, they made up loudly, and had friends over who also shouted loudly because apparently volume is contagious. I learned more about their lives than I wanted to. I learned that entitlement often travels in packs. At one point, they knocked on my door to tell me to stop complaining. They said they pay rent too, as if rent includes a subwoofer endorsement. They told me that if I didn't like noise, then I shouldn't live in an apartment, which is a wild thing to say to someone living underground beneath them. Things came to a head on Thursday night. I remember because I had work the next morning and hope in my heart, which was a mistake. The music started around 10 o'clock. By midnight, it was at a war volume, and around 1 o'clock in the morning, shouting joined in. Not party shouting, but sharp, angry shouting. A new girlfriend was involved. I know this because I've not yet memorized her voice. Doors slammed, something broke, and the music cut off abruptly, which somehow made the yelling feel louder. Then sirens, red and blue lights flickering through my tiny window like a rave sponsored by Consequences. And it's right at this moment the cops showed up. Their clipboards came out, and all the voices dropped into that tight, controlled register that people use when they realize things have gone way too far. This is when my brain did a small but meaningful click, because I remembered something important. Police involvement violates the lease. Noise complaints are one thing, but police visits are another. Entitled people rarely believe rules apply to them until uniforms are involved. Now, I didn't insert myself. I did not exaggerate. Instead, I simply logged what happened like I always did, and I waited. The next morning, I emailed the leasing office with a factual and calm email, and I attached my documentation mentioning the police presence. I didn't accuse or editorialize. I let the facts sit there and do the heavy lifting. Well, things moved very quickly after that. The entitled people got a warning, and then another one, and then a notice. The music stopped for a week, and I slept like the dead, which felt unfairly luxurious. Then it came back, cautious at first like a child testing boundaries, and then full force again because they genuinely believed they would get away with it. But I kept documenting every stomp, every late night baseline, every violation. I sent weekly summaries. I used bullet points. I was a nightmare, but a polite one. They confronted me again, accused me of being uptight, of ruining their fun, of not understanding apartment living. I told them I understood it perfectly, and that was the problem. The final straw came with another argument, another girlfriend, another visit from the police. By this point, the leasing office had a file thick enough to qualify as light reading. And yes, finally, they were evicted. The night they moved out felt silent in a way that felt unreal. I sat on my couch with a book and a sense of peace. They say entitled people never think consequences will actually happen to them, and they are usually right until they're not. I slept 8 uninterrupted hours. I woke up refreshed and slightly feral. The spiders approved. The lesson here is not be vindictive. It is understand that entitlement thrives thrives when people assume no one will push back. Document. Know the rules better than the people breaking them. Be boring, but be relentless. Entitled people rely on everyone else being too tired to care. And while I definitely was tired, I also cared anyways. And somewhere, I hope they are explaining to a new landlord how unfair it all was, completely unaware of the irony. Okay, I love this so much because I've been in this situation where I've had crappy neighbors who are crazy loud, and oh my gosh, getting to sleep for the first time after they leave is like manna from heaven. It is so nice. Because dude, they're gone. The noisemakers are out of the building. They've been evicted, and for now, you're free from any kind of like weird attitude. Like, my god, I feel sorry for the original poster, and I know exactly what they're talking about. This kind of situation is obnoxious to deal with, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy. So good for you for putting these people in their place in a roundabout way, and for showing them that you are not going to be pushed over when they push back, because the way they were acting is completely unacceptable and they deserve to get evicted. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting by not wanting my mother-in-law to ever meet my newborn child? Because after she spent so much time lying about me, she finally crossed the line by saying that my child isn't actually my husband's, as she was heavily implying that I cheated on him. And at this point, I'm so devastated that I simply don't want her in my life anymore, and I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake by saying this. Here's what happened. To start things off, I'm Asian and my husband is Caucasian. We've been married for over a year, but together for about 7. Now, it's important to note that his mom never liked me because I'm not white. She always thinks that I'm with my husband for his money. Not that he's rich anyways. I mean, he's just a hardworking man and he's smart with his spending. After 4 years of doing long distance, I decided to leave my friends, my family, and my career, and I moved to his country. He was living at his mom's grandma flat and paid rent. He offered to pay more rent to cover the water and electricity bills when I moved in, but his mom refused to do so. Well, 6 months in, she started to complain about the bills, so he offered the extra rent again, but she still said no. At that time, I wasn't allowed to work legally as I was still waiting for my residency visa, but I never spent money on myself because I feel bad that I couldn't contribute financially. Even my husband had to force me to buy something that I like. Long story short, his mom told everyone that I was lazy, did nothing all day, that I was useless, and taking advantage of her son. In fact, we found out about this from one of our family friends that didn't believe anything she was saying and decided to ask us about it directly. Well, my husband told her off, and soon enough, we were looking for our own place. But luck just so happened to be on our side. We found a rental place, my residency got approved, and I got a job all within like 2 months. I then stopped any communication with her since we moved out, and my husband talked to her anytime we had to. Well, a year after that, we found out that she's been telling everyone that I make spicy content online, if you know what I mean, and according to her, that's why I have income. Well, my husband told her off again and cut her off completely until we're about to get married. But despite everything she's done, we still felt it was the right thing to do to invite her anyways. But she didn't come to the wedding because it was in my home country. After a long journey of trying to get pregnant, I had to go through IVF, and we are finally going to be parents halfway through this year. Unfortunately, our excitement just got disturbed by her again. This time, she's telling everybody that it's not even my husband's child. This hurt my feelings so bad that I told my husband I do not want her anywhere near our child ever. He said it upsets him that our child will miss having a grandparent that lives close by, but he also understands my decision. So did I overreact for the things that I did? Or do I have the right to make this decision? Because right now I'm honestly so pissed off that I don't know what to do. Okay, the second this lady said you made spicy content and that your child is actually somebody else's and not your husband's, like that for me would have been the last straw, and I would never talk to this lady ever again. That is so reprehensible and disgusting, there's no excuse for that. She's clearly only doing this because you're not white, and that's already messed up in and of itself. But for her to literally make up lies about you and try to be like, oh yeah, this is what they're doing, painting you as some kind of horrible person, like that is unacceptable. And in my opinion, it absolutely justifies you cutting her off completely. So no, you did not overreact. If my mom acted like that towards my spouse, I would lose my mind and feel the exact same way. So in my opinion, I think you're completely justified. My brother is having an out-of-state, child-free wedding and is now upset that I won't be coming along because I have 2 kids of my own that I simply can't leave behind, and I don't have the money available to get childcare that I could trust. And at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk for choosing not to go to the wedding because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my brother lives in another state, which is like an 18-hour drive or a 3.5-hour flight for us from where we're at. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I was told that they would not be invited to the wedding at all, including the rehearsal rehearsal dinner, the ceremony, and the reception. Now, I have no childcare options, and I would never feel comfortable leaving them with a stranger in an unfamiliar city in a hotel. Obviously, I had to decline the invitation, and I told my brother there was no way for me to attend his wedding because I had nowhere for the kids to go. My brother was upset and responded, "Just get a babysitter." And obviously, he doesn't have kids and doesn't understand that it just isn't that simple. I then told him that it was his wedding and he has to do what he wants to do, but that excluding his niece and nephew was ultimately also excluding me. So I'm hurt by his decision. I don't intend to change his mind, and even if he did, I would no longer feel welcome, but this does hurt. My brother is now upset that I'm not attending the wedding and upset that I'm hurt by his decision to exclude my children. This is my only sibling, and I thought we were close. We've visited him several times, and my kids have always behaved. In fact, we've always been invited back, but I guess this time we're just not allowed to be there. So am I the jerk for not being able to go to this wedding and being upset by this? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk at all because I think you've got it right. Your brother absolutely has every right in the world to be like, okay, I don't want kids at my wedding, so that means your kids can't be there. But in that same vein, so do you. You have a right to be upset about this and be like, okay, I'm not leaving my kids behind, so no, I'm not going to be there. In my opinion, you are just as justified as he is when it comes to his decision about his wedding. And it's so funny that he's trying to be like, oh, come on, we're family. Just get a babysitter and show up anyways. It's not that big of a deal. Dude, we're talking about a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Leaving them for a weekend is going to be a nightmare. That's going to be a huge disruption of their patterns and all the things they want to do. And you want to sit there and be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. No, it really is that big of a deal. You can't just do that and expect nothing to go wrong. So no, you're not the jerk for saying you're not going to go, and you're definitely not the jerk for being hurt by this. I could understand if your kids were loud and obnoxious, but if anything, it kind of seems like he's being preventative about something that isn't a problem. And that really sucks because it means that you're not going to show up, and this is literally not your fault. Today, I met my boyfriend's work wife for the first time, and after the way I saw her act around my boyfriend, I'm honestly devastated and I'm questioning everything, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So I've been with my boyfriend for 5 years now, and he's been at his current job for a few years now. We will call him Jake for the sake of the story. I've never met any of his coworkers until last night, but there's one in particular who I will call Amy for the sake of the story as well. Now, Jake sometimes does favors for Amy, like fixing her car, going to her house to fix stuff around her house, etc. And I was never really concerned because he told me all of his coworkers are a lot older than him. However, one night while he was asleep, his guy friend kept blowing up his phone. So I answered to let him know that Jake was sleeping, and so was I. So please stop calling. Anyways, before I put the phone down, I noticed 5 unread text notifications from Amy. I guess some of the spam notifications were from her, and one of the messages said, "Great, Jake. Now everyone thinks that we're sleeping together." And I gotta be honest, this one really concerned me. So the next day after Jake got home from work, I asked him about it. He said that both him and Amy were late for work that morning, so everyone probably assumed that, and it was just a joke according to him. Now, I thought it was a weirdly unprofessional joke, and I expressed my discomfort with it. So he invited me to the bar with him and his coworkers that night so that I could meet her and see it was nothing to worry about. Well, it did not soothe my nerves at all. It turns out Amy is not a lot older than him. She's only 3 years older, and she's incredibly pretty. The entire night she was all over him, touching him and leaning on him, putting her arms around him, and even kissed him on the cheek, and he acted like it was normal. They were constantly teasing each other in that middle schooler who doesn't know how to properly flirt yet kind of way. She told me all about how she loves him like a brother, and also told me that she slept with half of their other coworkers, and that she got the next morning off of work because she sent a coworker some dirty pictures to get him to cover for her. Later on, she started crying and sobbing at the bar, actual tears, because apparently she's so lonely and wants someone to love her, and my boyfriend ended up being the one to comfort her. So now I'm just honestly unsure what to do or say. My boyfriend kept acting like this was normal, that he wasn't doing anything wrong by entertaining this behavior. I can't ask him to cut her off. I mean, they're on the same unit and they have to work together. I literally don't know what to do about this, but I'm just disgusted knowing that this has all been going on for the years that he's worked with her. So seriously, how can I set boundaries when they're forced to be around each other all the time at work? What should I do? Okay, first things first, this is incredibly sketchy. Your boyfriend is literally touchy-feely with this woman, and he's completely okay with it. He's not making any objection to her literally cuddling up next to him and kissing him on the cheek. So your gut instinct of being this is weird is absolutely spot on. That is some sketchy behavior, and that's not okay. That is not indicative of a boyfriend who's loyal to his girlfriend, especially with this Amy lady. If she can admit that she's willing to sleep with half of her coworkers and send dirty pictures to another coworker just so he can cover her for work, then I can only imagine what she would try to do or say behind closed doors when no one's around. Like, my God, this is some sketchy behavior. And if I'm being completely honest, and a lot of people in the comment section agree with this, Jake is essentially treating Amy as if it's another girlfriend in his life. And this is only the behavior you're seeing in person. And Amy seems like she's being so performative in some way. Like she's saying all this stuff just to try and get a rise out of you or like get under your skin. Because what is she really saying here? Oh yeah, she slept with like half her coworkers, which is probably making you wonder, well wait, has my boyfriend done that with Amy? Like that was a very purposeful response, and she probably did that on purpose just to either mess with you or as some kind of like hint that yeah, they are sleeping together and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, if I saw my significant other get kissed by someone from work and that same person is described as their work spouse, I would lose my mind. I would be like, why are you letting this happen? This is not okay with me. I don't want my girlfriend or boyfriend in this case letting someone else kiss them on the cheek like that. Like that's messed up. That's only something that I can do. Like we are a couple after all, right? Because this really does cross so many professional boundaries, dude. This is not okay. So I think if you did have some kind of boundary that you can set with Jake in regards to Amy, I would say, and this is just me speaking, that hey, if she ever kisses you again, I'm breaking up with you. Like I would personally set that hard line in the sand because there's no way I would ever let that slide because that is unacceptable. So no, your gut instinct is right. This truly is a sketchy situation and I would be very suspicious of this woman moving forward, especially when it comes to how she interacts with your boyfriend. Would I be the jerk if I denied my newly found half-sister on my father's side any access to my mom, who is absolutely not related to her? Because after the years of my mother dealing with the fact that my father cheated, this all feels like it's just a train wreck waiting to happen. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this is a bit complicated, but please just bear with me. Recently, a girl reached out to me via Facebook explaining that she is my half-sister, conceived by my father and another woman. She explained that her mother recently came clean to her regarding her father, that she was the result of a one-night stand with a guy she met during a work trip. Before she was told that, she was the biological kid of her stepfather. She didn't find our father online, but she found me thanks to our very uncommon surname. Well, after a bunch of messages, we set up a video call to talk, and she explained that she was very excited to connect with her real family, but not just with my father's side, but also with my mother's side. Now, we are both similar in age, with me being 25 and she being 23, so with that in mind, my father clearly cheated on my mom with this other girl's mom. But there's no surprise there, as he had tons of affairs during the marriage, which is why they divorced almost 2 decades ago. I'm also not surprised that I have a half-sister that exists, as my father told me himself years ago when I was grilling him about the cheating, that he most likely has a bunch of affair kids out there, because according to him, oh, that's just how men are. Well, I was open with her, and I told her that I'm no contact with my paternal family, because not only do they condone the cheating and blame my mom for it, they also are extremely toxic in general. There is a lot to say about my paternal family, by the way, but to keep it concise, I told her I could give her their contact information, but she should keep her expectations low because they are all pretty terrible people, and she won't be seen as a long-lost daughter coming home. But me saying that led to her asking about my maternal family, to which I told her that they are amazing people and that my mom is great. She then got excited and said that she can't wait to connect with my mom, and when she said that, I'm kind of stumped as to why I would let her do that. She is not related to my mom, and my parents divorced a long time ago. My mom is also since remarried. Also, the timing of this half-sister's conception coincides with the time when my mom miscarried my younger brother, something that obviously hurt her a lot. So knowing that, on top of knowing that my father was cheating on her during this time, is another can of worms that I truly don't know if I want to open up. I told my half-sister that I would ask my mom if she's okay with connecting with her, but I really just don't think I should ever bring this up to her. All of this just seems so weird to me, and I don't even know if this half-sister is even a good person, or if she has some sort of like ulterior motive for wanting to know my mom. She couldn't even give me a good reason as to why she would want that, just that my mom is my family and thus also hers. I'm leaning towards not mentioning this to my mom and giving my dad's information, but my best friend said that I'm a jerk for keeping my mom to myself and that I shouldn't make this decision for my mom. So would I be the jerk if I didn't really mention anything to my mom at all? Because this entire situation is a little messed up and I just don't know what to do next. Okay, in my opinion, there's no way in the world I would ever tell my mom about this. You mean to tell me the affair child on your father's side is reaching out, saying she wants to meet up with your mom and talk to her, instead of the father that is the reason this all happened? Holy crap, this is a nightmare waiting to happen. Because think about it for a second, this is not your mom's kid. Your mom went through an absolute nightmare having her husband cheat on her over and over again, so I'm pretty sure the last thing she wants to deal with is one of those kids as a result of that cheating, reaching out and trying to be oh, we're a family. I don't know, that would really piss me off, and I just don't think that's gonna be good for anybody. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your friends are wrong, and I think you have the right mindset to try and protect your mom, because this entire situation seems a little bit backwards, and I just don't think it's a good idea. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel, and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.